Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
Welcome to Plug and Play's Summer Summit, Munich Edition 2021. It is a pleasure for us to host you here today for the latest trends of the industries.
We are three verticals with one vision: to make innovation accessible to anyone, anywhere.
We are supporting corporations and startups to shape an innovative future through open innovation and close collaboration on an eye level.
So join us and enjoy, and we're looking forward to hosting you. So let's kick it off with the EXPO of our Batch 6 program today. Thank you all for joining, and excited to present the startups from the Startup Creasphere program today. Thank you to all the startups for joining us today from all the different time zones. And before we kick it off, let's start with a little bit of a background of Plug and Play and Startup Creasphere and what we have been doing over the past 3 years. Plug and Play on the one hand side is the most active VC and early stage startup, everything from pre-seed to Series A, and we're clustered into different verticals depending on the industry. And on the other side, we're the biggest innovation platform globally. We support our corporate partners with their innovation activities and their journey to digitalize and stay competitive within their industry through our startup network globally and our expertise within the industry. And talking about healthcare today and Startup Creasphere, we founded our Startup Creasphere platform here in Munich in September 2018, together with Roche Diagnostic, with the mission to transform healthcare together. Now we have grown over the past 3 years with 6 partners on the platform today. So thank you very much to our corporate partners for joining us and for trusting us with our innovation activities. So welcome and thank you to all colleagues from Roche Diagnostics, Sanofi, Biotronik, Novo Nordisk, Accenture, and Microsoft. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and we hope that we get to see you soon here in person in Munich as well. And the Startup Creasphere footprint has been growing tremendously over the past 3 years as well. So we have started in Munich as the mothership of Startup Creasphere, and we have been expanding to Silicon Valley, Singapore, and now also excitingly moving into Shanghai, where we also, together with our corporate partners, support them with their pilot projects within our programs. So at Startup Creasphere, we support our corporate partners by, on the one hand side, offering dedicated networking opportunities amongst the corporate partners, but as well supporting them throughout the program, from before the program, choosing the right startups for their pilot projects, through the real pilot program, within the program, and working on later together as well. And we at Plug and Play also support the startups through matchmaking sessions, events, and the dedicated program to really make the most of it for both sides. Here you can see the timeline of our Batch 6 programs, where the startups present what they have achieved throughout the past month. And we have started with the kickoff in March, where the startups have been chosen prior to work with the corporate partners and then gone through the deep dive weeks with dedicated workshops, matchmaking sessions, and sessions between the pilot owners from the corporate side and the dedicated startups. And today they showcase what they have achieved together. So these are some of the focus areas that we have been focusing on within the past 6 batches. And today it's all about patient consent management, women's health, chronic disease management, diabetes care, and much more. So it's great to see all these startups from all over the world joining today and for showcasing what they are doing within their company and what they have been working on. So thank you all for joining. We're very excited to listen to your pitches. And we have 17 startups from 8 different countries, and we have hosted over 15 events within the past month virtually. And it's really great to see what you have done together, even in this virtual times. How do we actually choose these startups that are joining our program successfully? It is an iterative process over the past 4 months prior to the actual program, where our great ventures team really chooses the right startups with the business units from the corporate partners to meet the needs and to really join together. And it is a pleasure to welcome this following startups here with us today. Here you can see a list and an overview of this international cohort we're having here today. And with that being said, I would like to thank you in advance for joining and for your interest and for understanding the importance of digital healthcare solutions and for joining our platform together. And now back to the studio.
Thank you very much, Frederica, for those great insights and the great introduction. Welcome from the studio. We're very excited to have you all dial in today to the start of the Munich Summer Summit 2021. Today, we will kick things off with our startup Creasphere Expo, which we're super excited about. Tomorrow, this is going to be followed by the insurance portions in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we will also see our brand and retail vertical dialing in and showcasing their startups, what they've accomplished throughout the program. My name is Fabian Scheugenpflug, and together here with my colleague Max, we're responsible on the one hand side for all the startups that you see today and all the startups that we help to matchmake together with our corporate partners, and then also on the other side for our own investments. With that being said, I would like to hand over the word to Max here to also say some words.
Thank you, Fabian. And I also want to take the opportunity to welcome each and every one of you, especially our corporate partners, all the great startup founding teams, and all other participants in today's Expo event. We're super excited to learn about the individual progression each startup team has made, and also about the milestone achievements throughout the 3-month program setting. Moreover, we want to stress the fact that this does not mark the end, but rather the continuation of our joint journey together.
So Max, jumping into that event today, don't you miss real in-person events?
Yes, definitely, Fabian. I think we're all craving for that in-person live spirit, that one-to-one interaction. But of course, I think it also needs to be stressed that it's remarkable how we stayed interconnected, how we also pushed our innovation projects during the 1.5 years, the challenging times, and continued to stay connected together. Also, we have a great platform today in place that features a lot of interactive elements. And Fabian, maybe you can lead us through the platform settings for a bit.
Absolutely, Max. So we're using Meet Anyway today. It's actually a Munich startup, so just around the corner. And we found out that this is one of the platforms that actually brings the experience that you have in an on-site event closest to a virtual event. So for those of you who haven't seen the platform or who maybe have forgotten since the last event, we would like to quickly guide you through the platform. Here you see the interface. On the left-hand side, you can see the agenda and skim through the agenda. Underneath, the brochure is embedded. There you can see a multitude of articles, our startups, voices by our partners, etc., etc. If you're like lost in the platform, please go to the welcome desk underneath. Then you can go to the main stage to join the main stage on the join button in the main stage. Underneath, we have the Q&A section. So please feel free to enter all the questions you have there. For the networking, we have the open tables. Feel free to join there in the breaks to network and mingle. Then we have another exciting tool, the one-on-one speed dating. For the one-on-one speed dating, it is pretty similar to get acquainted with someone else in the local setting. So just go there and you can exchange. Then here you can see all the startups. We've included the startups. You can chat to the founders. You can also download their pitch decks and look at the pitch decks another time. And underneath, we also have embedded the Calendly link for a follow-up meeting after the meeting. So all the startups are clustered by their partners. So we have a Novo Nordisk, a Biotronik, and a Roche section. And then in the end, we also have that section about our partners to tell you a little bit more around that. You can also search for particular people that attend the event. Just go to the search bar and then search for someone who's on the platform to mingle with. So now we have kind of the housekeeping done. I would quickly like to guide you through the agenda of today's event. Here you see we're currently in the opening remarks. This one will be followed by a very inspirational keynote by the Hippo AI nonprofit about unite data and defeat inequalities. After that, we will introduce a new portion for the startup Creasphere. That's the Wildcard startups. They will present their solutions and what they've done since the last 3 months. This will be followed by our first partner, who's actually also, for whom it's actually also the first expo today, Novo Nordisk. Then we have a quick break for networking. Afterwards, we will move on to the second youngest partner, so to say, Biotronik, to see their 3 startups. And then we will jump into the one-on-one speed dating. Last but not least, we will jump into the pitches of the startups working together with our founding partner, Roche. And in the end, please stay tuned and listen carefully to all the pitches. We're going to announce the winner of the Best Virtual Pitch Award. Afterwards, we also have prepared something, a lounge bar. So join us there for virtual drinks. But speaking about traditions first. So we are also joined today by Olivia Hartl-Spiegelauer, originally an employee of Roche, but also a very talented artist who has been accompanying us since batch 3 in her scribbling skills to scribble an entire event and bring the content to the paper. Here you can actually see one of her scribblings for our last expo, and we're truly excited to have her here today and are looking forward to the content, to the art that we see later on. So, Max, we actually had a very full-packed agenda here. We have great insights. We also have Olivia joining in. What are you most excited about?
Definitely, I think, Fabian, that we have a lot of exciting action items on today's agenda. But for me personally, I'm super excited about the inspirational keynote by Hippo AI. I think they have a very noble vision of democratizing healthcare. And of course, another aspect I'm super excited about is the Virtual Pitch Award. I think we're super excited to get to know about the audience feedback and really who the startup is that they like the most today.
I couldn't agree more. Speaking actually about the keynote, we're very honored to have secured 2 amazing speakers of the Hippo AI organization today. It's a non-profit that actually tackles a crucial part of the medical research, which turns out to be a real bottleneck in the entire research process. Their mission statement, "We democratize medical artificial intelligence," is truly inspired by their own experiences. So with that, I would like to welcome the CEO, Bart de Witte, of the Hippo AI Foundation to the stage to tell a little bit more about the foundation, and then the Chief Patient Officer, Victoria Prantauer, to tell us a little bit more about her incredible story and what truly inspires her to do what she does. So with that, Bart, the stage is all yours. Bart?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Bart Witte. I'm the initiator and founder of the Hippo AI Foundation. After having worked nearly 2 decades as a global executive for big tech and always focusing on healthcare, I tried to find an answer on the question, who will reap the benefits of AI in healthcare? Are we moving towards a similar monopolistic power asymmetry as we have seen in the search industry or with social media, where just a few global organizations collect and privatize data with each single transaction we make? Data is becoming a key measure whether a company, or let's even say a continent such as Europe, will remain relevant. What happens if we leave all these discoveries we get out of data in the hands of a small number of global big techs? Do you really think that this will lead to less inequalities in health when these companies come from regions that do not share our fundamental right to access to health? And when our thoughts in the future become data that is made readable by AI and brain-computer interface, are we still going to treat data as a tradable commodity? The present defines the future, and the future is built on the foundation of what we do or we not do today. I personally believe in a flourishing economy that is based on the principles of openness and collaboration rather than on exclusivity of future medical life-saving knowledge, which will lead to inequalities. A polypoly instead of a monopoly. With the Hippo AI Foundation, I want to foster open innovation for the medical industry to build data and AI commons that are open and available to all, so we can all profit independently from the benefits of AI in healthcare without challenging our fundamental rights. And how do we do this? Well, we do this by putting patients and citizens in the focus of our actions. We empower them to build a different world, a world that is more sustainable and equitable. So here you go, meet Victoria. She's our patient zero. She's the world's first breast cancer survivor that has set herself the goal to give all people access to the care she received by dedicating her life to the development of open source medical AI. Victoria, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Bart. And yeah, hello everyone. My name is Victoria Brandtauer. I'm so happy to be here today together with you. I hope that you can now see my screen, but I think so. So when I was diagnosed in the summer of 2019 with breast cancer, my life, it really turned upside down. You know, I was shocked, I was afraid, and the situation, it created a certain destructive energy. And I had two opportunities. I can drown in fear, or I can use this experience and transform it, start creating. And that's when I made my decision in the first night after the diagnosis that I will use this experience and turn it into something profoundly positive for the people. So what really bothered me during that time was that AI for a more accurate diagnostic is already out there, but not accessible for the patients. So I started my research, and that's when I found Bart and the Hippo AI Foundation with the mission to maximize the benefit of AI for the people and to, break down the global inequalities in healthcare. And after that, the Hippo AI Foundation enabled me to follow my dream and to empower the people around the world to develop life-saving AI. So the Hippo AI Foundation turned me from a patient into a social entrepreneur, if you will. So with the motto, Unite Data, Defeat Cancer, we launched our first campaign back in October 2020, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we had the goal back then, to find our first supporters, to learn together, bring patient experts, researchers, physicians, bring all together and learn together, but also to get our first data donations from research institutes and hospitals. Because Victoria 1.0 started as as the campaign, but it will become the largest open data set for the fight against breast cancer. Currently, there are no comprehensive open data sets out there which represent, the global diversity, which are high quality data, labeled data, and are available for the open innovation community. So this lack of diversity in data set leads to even more inequalities in the process of the diagnosis based on AI. So we created that ASCII filter you can see here on the picture. So it turns your breast into ASCII code. And what we want to symbolize with that is data is not something abstract. It's not just pictures and numbers. Data comes from us, and that's how we should read the data. What we're trying to achieve with our actions is that people everywhere around the world are able to develop life-saving methods based on their local needs. For example, you can see here Akram, she lives in Ethiopia. She's a doctor in training and a machine learning student. And she also tried our wonderful Instagram filter. And she's part of our international top-class community, which is now working on the first actionable database on breast cancer pathology data. So what we're trying to achieve as a first step is to replicate my diagnosis. I had that HER2 gene amplification, and it's really essential to diagnose this kind of breast cancer because it's a very aggressive one, But the good thing is, if we are able to overcome the hurdle of the diagnosis, then there are very good treatment methods out there. So with our network of Hippo AI community, experts and partners from the DKFZ to Stanford, and also a global top 20 pharma company supporting us, we're now aggregating, anonymizing, and labeling this data. So after that, we will release it with our open knowledge license. So startups like the ones here today can use this data to train AI for free. Our only condition is that users who work with the data, they need also to disclose the source code of the AI when they're working with the data. So with this approach, it's not only possible to diagnose women around the world, it's also possible, to demonetize the life-saving knowledge we can create out of this data, but also give market access to pharma companies to treat the patients. And I also think that there are tons of opportunities for startups around the world to collaborate and to create open standards together, like all these very successful open source software projects out there. So what we're trying to achieve is, together with the industry, bring our social market economy into the digital age. So everyone can support. So this topic really needs awareness. Please feel free to spread the word and try our ASCII filter and ASCIify your breast as well. That would be really helpful for us. So I made my decision. I quit my job to dedicate my life 100% to Hippo AI's goal to accelerate the development of OpenAI. From my point of view, to be really honest with you, I think that's the only possibility to create a future world where we really want to live in. So I need your help to build this world. So if you would like to contribute, please, feel free to reach out. We need help with marketing, content, PR, fundraising, just to name a few topics that are on our plate. But also you can use this QR code. It leads to our website and our donations form because, as mentioned before, we're an NGO and I really need financial support to realize the project. So thank you very much for your help and also for listening to me.
Thank you, Victoria and Bart, for the inspirational words, the inspirational presentation, and moreover for the initiative that you undertake with Hippo AI on a day-to-day basis. We highly support your mission to democratize healthcare and make it accessible all around the world to patient needs. We also agree that digital concepts and also artificial intelligence can act as true enablers and gateways in delivering and distributing healthcare services to even fragmented and weakened healthcare systems. If you want to take part in Hippo AI's mission and want to even take one step further, you can visit their website, victoria10.org, and leave a small donation to further sustain their nonprofit business model. With that being said, and building on Hippo AI's understanding that we want to foster open collaboration, that we want to leverage open collaboration to further improve the healthcare system of tomorrow, we'll now come to our startup pitches. Shifting the limelight to our corporate partner teams and also the startups involved in our batch, we want to kickstart things with our Wildcard startups. Before we do that, I want to encourage you all to use the Q&A section just below the main stage to submit your questions directly to the founding teams. Of course, they're also looking forward to your engagement. And also, please feel free to ask any questions that you like. We will now have prepared a little video for you that highlights the startups ahead, the founding teams ahead, and their memorable moments of the program.
We have chosen 3 additional topics that are highly relevant in the field of healthcare innovation with our 3 wildcard startups. On the one hand side, telemedicine, which is growing and always more important as we are rising to the virtual world to give patients all over the world access to medical care. On the other side, women's health, with a topic that is, in regards to personal healthcare, highly relevant, and a topic to less stigmatized topics like period tracking, fertility, endometriosis, or PCOS. And of course, multiple channels to also get to know our patients better through social media access. The following 3 startups will give you a great overview of these 3 topics, and we're excited to welcome them to this Batch 6 program and the Expo today.
I think 3 things make HealthTap different from other solutions. The first is the fact that we're all about helping you establish ongoing care with a primary care provider to help you get better and stay healthy, going beyond the one-off urgent care conversations. The second thing is providing value to people when they're looking for information, which they do far more frequently than looking for care, with our unique repository of millions of doctor answers to millions of health questions and the ability to get new trusted answers from doctors to any health question. And the third is simple, affordable, transparent pricing for consumers and enterprises of all types, with or without insurance, large or small. Open innovation is so important to HealthTap because we are in a space that is extremely new for consumers. And there's a lot of things that the industry has not yet figured out around effectively engaging consumers at scale, affordably, to provide quality care. And that means testing and trying out a lot of things, which leads me to the value that programs like Startup Creasphere provide, which is growth capital and partnerships to collaborate and have the resources to go and experiment and find that ideal virtual care solution that the world is trying to evolve.
Hello everyone, my name is Chantal Bell and I'm the co-founder of a company called Syrona Health. We're a digital health company focused on creating end-to-end solutions for people with chronic gynecological health conditions such as endometriosis and PCOS. What makes us different from other companies within this space is that we focus on the chronic nature of these conditions, as there is no real disease-modifying intervention out there. Our app Sora helps support users with their chronic health conditions, from initial signs and symptoms through to connecting them with key care specialists, treatment and management, and a community aspect all in one app. Open innovation is integral for us and it's invaluable. We enjoy sharing ideas, whether it be with product, business models, or strategy, from companies within our space and also outside. Startup Creasphere helps foster these conversations with our peers and also supports us growing our company through expert-led panels.
Max, isn't that a great video?
Definitely, I think so as well. And of course, we want to stress the fact that we have made a lot of memorable moments in the last 3 months, but we want to continue to stay also your partner beyond the program scope. But without further ado, I would like to introduce our first startup of the day to the virtual stage, which is the company Syrona Health. Syrona Health is committed to foster greater patient value in the very important field of women's health. They are tackling the indication of endometriosis. Endometriosis is a highly prevalent subject, as 10 to 15% of all women in the US are affected by that disease. In the UK alone, this indication is the second most common gynecological condition. Also, it needs to be noted that it's quite challenging to detect endometriosis in the first place. So how Syrona Health is helping in detecting and also with coping with that disease, we have Chantel Bell here to tell us more about it. So Chantel, welcome to the virtual stage, and please lead us away with the first pitch.
Great. So my name is Chantel Bell, and I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Syrona Health. So we're a digital health company focused on creating a digital platform for chronic gynecological health conditions. And as mentioned earlier, one of our main focuses is on a condition called endometriosis. We've released our flagship app into the market just this year, so we're still quite new into the market, but I'll be happy to share with you what we've done so far. So to start off with, chronic gynae conditions are very much underserved and under-researched. It's costly to employers, society and healthcare systems, and also the people who are actually going through these conditions themselves have to miss a lot of time off work or leave the employment world altogether. And we say that over 100% of people, so everyone with uterus, will have a chronic gynae condition within their lifetime. And this includes endometriosis, PCOS, uterine fibroids, infertility, osteoporosis, and menopause. And what's quite interesting is that these conditions are very much interlinked. And due to the chronic nature of these conditions, we believe a platform solution is required. Starting off from very, very kind of early teenage years, when menses first start, conditions such as endometriosis and PCOS may begin, going through to infertility and in later life menopause and osteoporosis. But our initial kind of focus at the moment is within endometriosis and PCOS. And as mentioned, endometriosis is a condition where cells, which are very similar to the lining of the uterus, start to grow in other parts of the body, such as the legs, the lungs, or even the pelvic region as well. PCOS, again, is a hormonal condition and can take about 3 to 4 years to diagnose with no known cure. So we produce Sora. So Sora is a vertically integrated platform for chronic gynecological health conditions. And it's split up into 4 main sections, and I'll go through each of them one by one, starting off with tracking and monitoring. So the first stage is users are able to kind of track their symptoms over time, track their lifestyle elements, so food, mood, sleep, and exercise. And we also integrate with Apple Watch and Fitbit. This allows us to really create a good kind of basis for what's going on with that individual and understand, whether there's a potential gynae condition going on there. We're a Class 1 medical device in the UK and within Europe as well. So going from that tracking and monitoring stage, the next stage is, so what? So the next stage is to speak to a specialist. So we're a telemedicine license holder, and we provide access to gynecologists, nutritionists, mental health therapists, and also clinic referrals for IVF and egg freezing. Going from that, it's about treatment and management. So we have a partner pharmacy and a lab partner who provide prescriptions and diagnostic tests. And what's important is to really understand whether these treatment options are really working for the individual. So we collect a lot of data on real world evidence to understand whether we can tweak the treatment options for the individual themselves. And the final part is very much around community. So looking at polls, peer-to-peer community support, and also physician-approved content. Creating this vertically integrated platform, as mentioned, is super important for the chronic nature of these gynae conditions. We launched just in the UK in March, and then within Ireland in May this year. We have just over 4,500 users on the app to date, and who have logged over 300,000 events or symptoms on the app itself, and 45% monthly active users. Our team is quite diverse in nature, so we have a range of people with a background in finance, business, healthcare, digital healthcare, and then working more within the kind of clinical side as well. So our team is very much kind of in this section here, but we're supported by our advisors on the right there, who help us kind of plan for the future and growth expansion strategy as well. So I do have an ask for some of you out there. So we do sell direct to employers. So we're looking for employers who are looking for new solutions to support their workforce and to attract and retain new talents. We're also looking for connections, patient advocacy groups within this chronic gynae healthcare space. And then finally, connections to pharma and investors who are interested in digital solutions to support their women's healthcare portfolio. So my details are on the screen here, and I'd be happy to take any questions any of you may have.
Thank you, Chantal, for that very insightful presentation. And of course, thank you also for the continuous participation during the last 3 months. With that being said, we will now start our little Q&A session, and we already have the first questions pouring in, but of course, stressing the fact again that everyone can engage using our Q&A section. So first up, Chantal, the first question is, why is the diagnosis of endometriosis so challenging?
Yes, so a good question. I think one of the main reasons is that women's healthcare as a whole has very much kind of been under-researched for many, many years. So we don't actually know, kind of how endometriosis comes about or the reasons as to why it comes about. So that is one reason. The second reason is that it's often dismissed in primary care. So GPs often don't recognize the symptoms of endometriosis. So on average, to get a diagnosis, you have to speak to 8 to 10 physicians. And that is because people are constantly being told, it's not an issue, your pain is normal. So it's about kind of education within kind of the healthcare system themselves. And also, people starting from an early age, within schools, we should be talking about these conditions to help educate people and understand, these symptoms are not normal, and therefore, if somebody presents with these conditions or these symptoms, they should be kind of fast tracked to a kind of specialist to get a diagnosis.
Great. I mean, that sounds incredible. And just maybe one question adding on to this that we have from the audience. Does your service actually shorten that cycle towards an eventual diagnosis? Can you achieve that? And if you do, can you elaborate what kind of cycle you can achieve using your solution?
Absolutely. So that's kind of the main point of the service, is to kind of skip that almost primary care piece and go straight to specialist care. And that's what we do. So it's about tracking the symptoms. Our symptoms are very much curated towards kind of endometriosis and PCOS. And then once we realize that there may be something wrong, we can kind of flag that to the user, and they can kind of speak to our specialists on the platform who are endometriosis and PCOS experts. And they can then refer for further scans or tests which need to be conducted for a diagnosis.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chantal. Also one question from my side, but first of all, great pitch and also love the mission. One question is, how do you want to commercialize your product going forward? So essentially, what's the business model? Where do you want to deploy it?
Absolutely. So our current business model, we have kind of 2 arms. We have the B2C arms, which is very much anyone who finds our app on the App Store can download and gain access and help. But also we do go direct to employers, and that is one of our biggest business models at the moment, is kind of supporting women within the workforce through our app.
Thank you, Chantal. I mean, it's incredible. And of course, we have a lot more questions right now pouring in. But just in a matter of time, I would love to just invite everybody to meet you also during our networking times, and also in your specific startup booth, where everybody can, of course, directly engage with you and also ask their respective questions. But with that being said, Chantal, thank you very much. And of course, we will stay in touch continuously.
Thank you.
Right, so next up, we already come to our second startup of the day. The company is called HealthTap, one of the leading players, one of the pioneers in the field of telemedicine and also virtual healthcare. And I'm extremely excited to have them on board. A very great company, and of course, very much necessary, because we have learned throughout the last 1.5 years that we need to become more decentralized in delivering healthcare and making it accessible to also patients, especially in today's times, in times of the pandemic. So very glad to have such a leader on board of our program. So welcome, Sean MIRA from the US. I hope it's not too late on your side, but anyways, we're super glad to have you. So Sean, please take the virtual stage. Very happy to have you, and lead us away with your pitch.
Thank you so much, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate your invitation to join. So today I'll just tell you very quickly about what we do here at HealthTap. Our mission is to place an affordable, quality personal care physician at every American's fingertips. So just think of us as a direct-to-consumer virtual primary care provider focused on the US market. Many of you may recognize us through our work that we've done internationally with many payers and governments in other languages and markets. We have found the opportunity and focus that we have here today in the US market to be the most compelling, especially through the pandemic, which creates our focus. So I'll tell you what we're doing, but essentially the pandemic was the big bang moment for virtual care that will catalyze mass adoption to permanently transform the way consumers seek care. And yet, at least in the US market, and it's true in most geos, but no one has yet built a nationwide beloved household consumer brand. And that's the key word, a household consumer brand that makes virtual primary care available to everyone. So what we do is, you should think of us as a virtual first, affordable primary and urgent care clinic. We provide top quality physician care equitably nationwide to all Americans with or without insurance. And the key points there are, at the end of the day, we are a provider of healthcare. We are just technology enabled and using technology to our advantage to make healthcare more accessible and to make patient acquisition more efficient. We're affordable in order to be more equitable and accessible. America has an interesting healthcare system in that you have public plans and private plans, and they come in wide ranges of coverage. And many Americans don't get healthcare paid for by government or their employer, and end up being, in many ways, out-of-pocket consumers. And therefore, they are price sensitive, end up avoiding care. And the most important type of care, as studies continue to show, is primary care. And telemedicine to date has been very focused around the conversation of urgent care, this idea that you can push a button and talk to a doctor 24/7. That's great. That's very useful for acute issues and one-off episodes, but it is not the most effective way to take care of people. Establishing an ongoing relationship over the long term with a doctor who gets to know you and your family history and your personality is a key way of driving prevention, wellness, and managing chronic conditions extremely effectively, so you catch issues way before they become much more serious and costly. So that's what we do, and that's what's different about us. And what's really exciting is, despite all the buzz in the market internationally, in the US alone, it's a gigantic market, hundreds of billions of dollars of TAM. And the startling statistics that I walk away with is the fact that still almost half of Americans have not tried telemedicine, and almost 1 in every 3 Americans doesn't have a primary care doctor. You know, I have the privilege that my uncle is my primary care doctor. I can text with him and ask him questions every time I have a stupid concern or need a prescription for something. But most Americans don't have this privilege. And so how can we create that type of privilege for everyone. And so you have to think of us as a two-sided marketplace, a lot like Uber or Airbnb, where we have apps for consumers and apps for doctors. And the way that this marketplace transacts is around three pillars of transaction. One is information. So a pretty unique service like Quora for doctors or Stack Overflow for doctors, where you can actually ask questions and a network of doctors, we can crowdsource answers from them for free. And we can get into how we motivate doctors at scale to do this, but it creates an amazing resource for you to self-orient and get information to your health questions before you decide to seek care. We also have an AI-powered symptom checker with a CE mark and all sorts of things that we've operated in multiple geos, but essentially helps consumers triage their symptoms. We connect consumers to the second pillar of care, which is the actual conversation for medical advice, diagnosis, and treatment. And this can be both virtual and in person, and it can be both on demand for urgent care as well as scheduled for ongoing care. And it is both with the on-call doctor when you need to speak to someone as soon as possible, as well as with your doctor when you can wait for the asynchronous text message back or the next available video appointment. And the third pillar is fulfillment. You don't get better as soon as you walk out of the doctor's office. You often need to take some medications, get a lab test taken and interpreted, and sometimes see a specialist or sometimes get some physical treatment like a vaccination. And so connecting to that last mile and coordinating that and making sure you're getting the most affordable services near you is the key. So our business model is that we offer a subscription service. It's similarly priced to Netflix or way less than actually what you pay for coffee at your local Starbucks or whatever your local chain is, wherever you're in the world. But the idea is for just $15 per month, you get everything on the right side. You get to choose your doctor. You get to text with your doctor for free. Video appointments with your doctor are just $39 or your copay, which may be less. To contrast that, for most people in the US, primary care appointments are usually $100 to $120 out of pocket. Urgent care visits, we offer 24/7 within seconds with the US doctor. They are also $39. So as a subscriber, you get a significant discount on them. Also to contrast that, out of pocket in the US, urgent care visits can be anywhere between $150 to $300. So you're really talking about significant cost savings. You can cover your children. We give you prescription drug discounts. We can discount lab testing for you. We have partners that provide online therapy, and you always have free access to our instant doctor Q&A forum, our AI symptom checker, and unlimited medical record storage. So what's really interesting about what we're doing and going to market is that direct-to-consumer strategy is figuring out the unit economics on how to acquire consumers and patients at scale with a good customer acquisition cost. Many other virtual care providers focus on the B2B market. How do we go through insurance companies, employers? We do that too, but we think by building that direct relationship with the consumer, you build a stickier relationship that leads to more engagement. So I believe we're at time. I could keep going for hours, but maybe we can go to questions.
Thank you, Sean. Very great pitch. And like I said in the introduction, we're super happy to have you on board. We already have some questions pouring in. So the first one being, as you're super focused on the US market right now, and you already have some experience also with other markets, what are the differences in terms of customer behavior, but also maybe in terms of market landscape when it comes to using your service? And why did you decide to specifically focus on the US for the further commercialization?
I took a globalization class in business school back in the day. And in the last day of class, the professor said, if there's only one thing I want you to take away from my class, it's that different countries are different. And I thought that was a very profound lesson. And what it really means is having had the experience as a relatively small company by team size, operating in markets like Hong Kong, UK, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. I mean, we've had quite a breadth of global experience. What we've learned is the amount of regulatory, political, cultural, and language differences can really dilute your attention and focus. There is so much that needs to be done by a group of technologists and designers and product managers in just improving the experience of what it means to access care. We haven't figured it out. You can't just stick a symptom checker and a Zoom call and say we have telemedicine. You know, one of the most profound things that we're trying to solve right now is how do you take the universal need for information before care and bridge that journey seamlessly and effectively convert people from when they just are Googling their questions to when they're actually talking to a doctor to when they're getting medication at pharmacy. These flows and these journeys and these integrations are quite nuanced, require a lot of attention, and are starkly different in different countries. So perhaps at some significant scale, one can diversify, but having had done that, it didn't seem like the prudent thing for a group of 100 and 150 people doing in almost like 10 different countries.
Absolutely, totally see that point, Sean. One more question that goes a little bit into a different angle of commercialization, and in particular in the startup interactions. For all the data that you collect, do you foresee in the near future to also look for startups to partner up with, enable us to collect data to optimize a portion of your offering?
Absolutely. I think the holy grail, especially around primary care, and many people talk about it, is becoming proactive rather than reactive. One of the biggest issues with urgent care as a relatively commoditized virtual care solution to date is that it's extremely transactional. Most healthy people don't think they need urgent care very often. So telemedicine has suffered from low adoption engagement, despite all the buzz, because it's one of these utilities that you don't need more than once or twice a year. And when you need it, people usually think they're invincible and won't need it again for a very long time. So by shifting to a primary care model where it's about an ongoing relationship and working with data and people that can turn that data into actionable insights on a proactive basis, you get to have a conversation with individuals proactively and more frequently. And therefore, through that stickier relationship and more trusted relationship, be more effective at changing their behavior and getting them to do things. When you're an app that maybe someone needs to use every 6 to 9 months, oftentimes the iOS will just uninstall you, even against your will, because that's what it does now. So how do you counter that? And I think having your data in one place and turning those into actionable insights in the same forum where you're establishing a relationship with a trusted entity, absolutely the way to go, and absolutely something we're looking to partner with.
Great. So I think that was already it with our Wildcard startups. So thank you, Sean, for being here and actually dialing in, and your great presentation, also the Q&A section. I'm very happy to have you on board. And also beyond the program scope, we will stay in touch and interconnected. And with that being said, I hand it over to Fabian for our Novo Nordisk startups.
Thank you, Max. And also thank you, Sean, for that pitch and your participation. Shifting now our view from the Wildcard startups towards the corporate startups. I would like to introduce you to our new partner, Novo Nordisk, who actually joined for their first batch and are concluding their first batch at the moment. With that being said, I'd like to welcome Matt Dugan, the Director of Business Innovation Garage at Novo Nordisk, which was newly founded a couple of months ago, to the stage to tell us a little bit more about their experience here in the Startup Creasphere program, but then also in a broader scope, how Novo Nordisk of the future will look like and how digital solutions can support on their journey. So with that being said, Matt, the stage is all yours.
Perfect. No, thanks a lot, guys. And thanks for the nice introduction. You have a super cool stage there. It looks like very relaxed and tropical. So I can feel the summer vibes. I have some easy slides here, and I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'll just share my screen really quickly. But you are right. We are coming from, we are a new partner to the program, and we're really excited. And in that respect, we just wanted to give you a quick introduction. I think many people on the call might know Novo Nordisk, but just for the sake of details, Novo, we are a pharmaceutical company. We deal with cardiometabolic diseases, primarily in the obesity and diabetes space, but also in the rare diseases as well, and an expanding portfolio. We have a pretty big footprint internationally, so we operate in a lot of markets, and we have a lot of great colleagues that have joined us along the way. on a high level, when we actually look at the space that we're in, like I mentioned, we are really focused on our path towards changing chronic conditions in the diabetes and obesity space. And coming from the digital part of the organization, we're incredibly excited about the potential that we have there. So we typically use this communication device to highlight the opportunity, and we really want to share this as much as possible, because the more people that we can invite in to solve these problems with us, the better. And we talk about the rule of halves. That's something that's been around for a little bit in the diabetes space, where we look at the amount of diabetes globally, that half the people that have it might not be diagnosed, and then less receive care and receiving it, and then eventually hitting their targets and then outcomes. So a huge opportunity there. As a company, we've been looking a lot at how we help people receive outcomes, but we're starting to look a little bit more upstream in the rule of halves, because we have a belief that digital can unlock some value, not only for the company, but also for the millions of patients that we could support here. And then if you look to the other core of our business on the obesity side, it's an even more dramatic picture on the rule of halves, where we really think that digital can play a role there, both from improving access to care and diagnosis, but maybe even from the prevention space. So we're really keen to explore. Like I mentioned, these are huge problems. And coming from the unit that we are, the Business Innovation Garage, we know that we can't solve these alone. So we're really looking towards the startup community and the partner community to try to tackle these problems together. And that's why we're really excited to be a part of the Creasphere program. And that's where we look at how we can run these accelerators with groups like Plug and Play and Creasphere, and how we take these long, big opportunities and then turn them into eventually pilots. So we're really after companies that are looking to work together to solve these problems and eventually lead to some market validation, so we can scale up those efforts going forward. But today, hopefully you're going to see some really exciting partners that we've been working with in batch 6. So we're working with 2 challenges. One on cardiovascular risk scoring in diabetic patients, because that's a big challenge for people with diabetes. And then also on the obesity side, looking at how we can better support people with obesity, potentially creating communities that can support each other. You'll get to hear from Cardiolyse, Lifelight, and Curatio, all really exciting companies that we're excited to continue collaboration with. But that is it for us. We're really keen also, it's great to get the chance to see all the other presentations. If anybody sees anything interesting in terms of our focus areas or thinks that they can help us on these grand missions, definitely feel free to reach out, and we look forward to continuing in the program.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matt, for that concise and very insightful presentation. I love the angle that you take for the halves going upstream, not only downstream, and also like expanding your efforts and also the focus areas you're looking at. With that being said, we would like to shift the focus to the startups that Matt already mentioned. So for that, before we kick it into that, we would like to show you a quick video of those 3 companies, highlighting their experience and also the pilot owner experience of the last 3 months.
You probably know that type 2 diabetes patients have cardiovascular disease in many cases. And this puts them at a higher risk of experiencing major cardiovascular events, which are called also MACE. Problem is, when a patient experiences the first MACE, it puts him at a higher risk of experiencing a second MACE. We wanted to explore solutions to allow healthcare providers to monitor remotely these high-risk patients, and we wanted it to be a seamless solution for patients. Cardiolyse is a remote cardiac monitoring real-time solution that acts remotely. The patient can input his own information, allowing the algorithm to be tailored to his own very special case, while recording his own parameters. This provides an overview to the healthcare provider on the healthcare situation and specifically the cardiac situation of the patient.
To address the diabetes patient elevated risk of cardiovascular diseases, Cardiolyse is providing its remote monitoring platform with adjusted patient pathways. For the healthcare provider, it means automated heart health analytics, risk stratification and prediction using our patented scoring systems. And for the patient itself, it gives an opportunity to follow on their progress over time with engaging feedback.
It is a non-invasive, easy-to-use solution that can eventually be made available broadly. We're very much looking forward to seeing it live and hopefully make a difference in these patients' lives.
People with type 2 diabetes have an increased risk for cardiovascular disease, or CVD, compared to those without diabetes. Novo Nordisk works in many ways with healthcare professionals and people with diabetes in order to ultimately reduce this risk. We want to use Liflight's fast and seamless technology in order to increase people with type 2 diabetes awareness to the link between type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease, in order for them to have an informed discussion with their healthcare professional so they can work together to reduce this risk.
Lifelight allows anyone to measure blood pressure simply by looking into the camera on their smartphone. We are working with Novo Nordisk to use our remote solution to raise awareness among people living with type 2 diabetes of their risk of cardiovascular disease. Patients will be able to download the jointly branded solution via a QR code. Lifelight will then alert those at risk to seek medical advice, identifying CVDs early and increasing the awareness of people with type 2 diabetes to the link between their condition and CVD.
People with obesity feel shame, guilt, and solitude due to their condition, a condition neither they themselves nor their surrounding society truly recognize. They're held down by strong stigma and biases. We're working with Jeff, Paul, and the Curatio team to explore how the Curatio community platform can connect, engage, and motivate people with obesity through education and peer networks, and activate them to seek proper medical obesity care.
Curatio and Novo Nordisk have partnered to help individuals achieve their weight management goals by leveraging the engaging power of peer support and evidence-based personalized programming. By launching a dedicated privacy and regulatory compliant community focused on weight management, Curatio and Novo Nordisk will engage patients early in their healthcare journey by forming circles of support via Curatio's proprietary matchmaking technology, condition-specific health tracking tools, and content that will activate, educate, and motivate patients to make the most informed decisions about their health.
Approach to a preventive approach. How they do it, Anna Starynska will tell you all about it. So please, Anna, the stage is all yours.
Hi, I am Anna, CEO and co-founder at Cardiolyse, and I'm grateful for the amazing opportunity to discuss Novo Nordisk initiative for remote patient monitoring discharged after ischemic stroke. So the aim of the pilot project is dangerous heart events prevention through timely risk detection. Cardiolyse markets certified predictive cardiac platform and applications for pharma and healthcare providers to manage CVD comorbidities for patients with diabetes. In the pilot project, we will be focusing on post-ischemic stroke patients. Diabetes cardiovascular complications are the main cause in 50% of all death of this group of patients. And look at the screen on the level of patient maintenance cost. Patients with CVD complications has a 3 times higher than just with the diabetes, and we have ambitions to reduce this cost. So key focus of the pilot project is a patients with ischemic stroke. 21% of stroke diabetes type 2 patients are readmitted within the first 30 days, and 55% are readmitted by 1 year. The remote patient monitoring solution aims to pilot patient risk stratification, reduce unnecessary readmission, scores of overall improvements of patient perception of quality of care. How it might work with the Novo Nordisk. We have developed, validated, patented, and certified a remote patient monitoring device agnostic platform, providing predictive analytical tool to identify high-risk patients and to provide holistic support to patients after discharging from hospital. Patient pathway, information for their treatment strategy, effectiveness of therapeutic measures, lifestyle changes. In this particular project, Cardiolyse platform will be integrated with the hospital system and provides via API analytical engine of ECG and blood pressure monitoring and other vital and non-vital parameters using machine learning analytics. Clinician will be equipped with the web dashboard of patient risk stratification. It allows doctors and nurses to redefine their workloads and focus on the most critical cases, and patients will receive their care timely. The patients will be equipped with the discharge package of application and combined ECG and blood pressure devices, enabling monitoring at home at any time to reduce readmission and unnecessary visits to doctor office. The expected benefits of pilot project with Novo Nordisk for healthcare providers are to reduce office visits, hopefully up to 50%, and to demonstrate respective reduced overall service costs by patient risk stratification and focusing on critical cases. Clinicians will monitor effectiveness of treatment, dose response, whether rehabilitation plan works, by monitoring of subtle changes of myocardium. And for patients, it is extremely valuable to have engaged score like stress, recovery, fatigue, and emotional analytics to support their recovery plan. Our pilot project has respective KPIs, and it's a number of reduced unnecessary readmission and number of timely readmission where intervention is needed. Early detection of recurrent abnormalities in connection with the prescribed drugs, by 25% of reduced nursing time in the follow-up of patients, and so demonstration of overall reduced cost of service, for example, reduced administration time in follow-up and cost saving of outpatient administration. Cardiolyse experienced team of experts consists of experts with outstanding medical, financial, software development and marketing background. We run projects with the pharma hospitals in Germany, Italy, in the UK with the NHS, Spain, and Finland, and Cardiolyse remote heart risk analytical solution is provided for post-discharge and chronic patients and clinical trial cases. So I'm happy to have any questions, comments regarding the pilot project with Novo Nordisk.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Anna, for that insightful pitch. We actually already have the first question, and we see here that you already have projects with hospitals across Europe. Yeah. When it comes to your solution, and as it is CE certified and on the way for FDA, what are your expansion plans? What are you looking forward or foresee in terms of geographies you will be active in?
we just to start commercialization in Italy and in Germany. In Italy, it's with the hospital chains, cardiology hospital chain, and in Germany with the pharma company. We would be happy to continue to work in Germany market with the hospitals and to expand to roll out our projects and contracts with the NHS. This is our plans for the next 2 years. Starting from 2024, we expect to obtain FDA and to start activities in the US market.
Great, Anna. So also another question from the audience. What is the time frame you can detect certain adverse health events in the cardiovascular field using your technology?
So using our technology, we can detect up to 2 months dangerous heart events, starting from the first week of monitoring. So it makes the events preventable, let's say.
Right.
Our main focus now is a secondary prevention, but the ambition is to work with the primary prevention as well.
Great, incredible. I mean, that's highly exciting. Is this also the unique selling point, so to speak, against competitive products, or are there other elements that you see as a competitive advantage of your solution in the field of cardiovascular preventative approaches?
The main competitive advantage is the predictability of our solution. This is the first one, the prediction of dangerous adverse events. So this is the key for us. And the second one is that we have a capacity to work with the clinical trials, starting from clinical trials and coming to patient rehabilitation. The platform is designed for pharma companies and healthcare providers as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Anna, for that. Well, for all the answers and that great pitch. Please, to the audience, feel free to mingle later on during our breaks, to go to the startup booth. You will also find Anna there, and you can look at the pitch deck another time. You can schedule a follow-up meeting, etc., etc. So with that, we would like to shift our focus now from a clinical setting to a home setting or individual setting. As we're moving more and more into the digital age and also more and more into the data age, it becomes very clear that continuous biomarker tracking at the point of ease is very important. Lifelight has taken an approach where the patient can actually just use their smartphone in order to collect critical biomarkers. How they actually do it, I would like to hand it over to Lawrence to the UK to tell us all about it.
So I'm Lawrence Pierce, the founder and CEO of Zim, the creators of Lifelight. Our vision is essentially to turn every mobile device on the planet into a personal monitoring platform. And how we do that is we've created a software-based technology that uses the selfie camera on your smartphone or tablet device and looks at tiny changes in your face skin color over time. And we use this by a process called remote photoplasmasography, RPPG, to measure your heart rate, your respiration rate, blood pressure, both systolic and diastolic, and oxygen saturation. We do all of this in 40 seconds, contactlessly, simply by looking into the camera on your smartphone device. We have a roadmap for future biomarkers including AF detection, atrial fibrillation, heart rate variability, and potentially blood glucose as well. What this means is we've created a validated medical device in a pure software. So using the patient's own smartphone, it's incredibly scalable globally. There's no hardware needed. So for example, we see the vision of 600 million smartphone users in India currently who have limited and restricted access to healthcare, being able to personally and remotely monitor their health. It's contactless, it's really designed to be frictionless, easy to use, there's no cuff involved in BP measurement, and it works for everybody. There's no different cuff sizes, it's designed to operate for anybody. We have connectivity through global standards like HL7 and FHIR, so it's very much part of the IoT space and the Internet of Things connectivity. We've built this using a data-driven philosophy. So we started this journey 6 years ago, and we've run 3 clinical studies to develop our algorithms, train them, validate them. We've recruited over 8,500 patients of a whole mix of different preconditions, ages, ethnicity. We've looked at different levels of blood pressure and pulse. So we've built this model on a clinically validated data set. So we've always used a gold standard ground truth and recorded the video from cameras on benchmark devices to build basically a unique clinical data bank that is the basis of our algorithm training. So how are we applying this to our pilot project? Well, we're really excited to be working with Novo Nordisk in the Creasphere plant pilot. And as Matt was explaining earlier on, Novo Nordisk had the vision of supporting people with type 2 diabetes. And we're particularly keen to help to educate those patients in understanding their risks of cardiovascular disease. So our model of the pilot is a really exciting use case for our technology, where patients will be able to download a jointly branded solution. And that could be through social media links or through a QR code on a poster. We will then advise those patients to speak with their healthcare professional, and we will give relevant topics for discussion. So this will help to identify CVDs early, and it will increase awareness of people with type 2 diabetes to the link between their condition and CVD. We see this working in a really simple model. These are our early wireframes that we've been co-designing with Novo Nordisk. So the idea is the entry point would be through social media or through a poster. We will have an introductory screen explaining the process, making it really simple. We then collect some risk factors from the patient. And then uniquely, we'll use Lifelight to measure the patient's blood pressure in 40 seconds, simply using their camera. At the end of this, we can present a risk score using a international risk calculation method, and to give advice and a steer and a nudge to the patient in terms of the conversations that they may want to have with their healthcare professional. So that's the end of my presentation. I just want to say, we have the vision of working with Novo Nordisk on this to really make this reach globally, to make a significant impact on patients with type 2 diabetes, to really help to inform their lifestyles and to support them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. I truly believe you will make that impact for all the diabetics out there in the world. Looking at your solution, just one question from my side that's kind of obvious as a next step potentially. Is there any aspiration to also work with the likes of Zoom together to implement those solutions into our daily life in order to prevent and track, an individual's health?
That's a really good question. We We're working initially with remote patient monitoring partners, so people who have specifically health-focused remote video consultation platforms. And what we're tending to find is that they prefer to use Lifelight before you have the face-to-face consultation. So you typically have like a virtual waiting room, like we do with Zoom. And so while a patient is waiting to meet with their GP through Zoom, we can take their vital signs so they're ready to go when they have their face-to-face consultation. But it's certainly an aspiration. Our ultimate goal is for this to be a B2C product, ultimately, for people to be completely empowered to measure their own and monitor their own healthcare. So yeah, so things like integrations with Zoom is definitely there in the future.
Great, thank you, Lawrence. We have another very direct question also from the audience. How are you differentiating against competition such as Bina AI or Neurologics?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it goes back to my, and obviously it was a really quick presentation, but our key differentiator is we've been working on this for 6 years. I remember vividly my first conversations as an eager startup 6 years ago with doctors and saying, look, we've created this really cool app, isn't it fantastic? And they said, well, does it work with sick people? And we said, yeah, I think so. I think it will. And they said, well, think so isn't good enough. We need to have evidence. We need this to be validated and proven. So we've gone through this big journey of collecting a very large clinical data set. So the competition are on that road, but we see that we've gone through a lot of those roadblocks and issues and found ways to get through them. So we have much more progress on regulatory approval. This is all developed under ISO 13485 as a medical device. So we had to learn all the things that as a startup, you're eager to move fast and break things, but you can't do that in medical. So really that's our kind of differentiator, is that we've learned how to do the long, hard medical device route for what is an amazing technology. But it has to be trusted, it has to be proven and validated for people to use it. Even in the well-being space, people need to know if they're investing time in using a product that it can be worth doing, that it's giving them an accurate reading.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lawrence. One more question, and that's a direct quote because I like it so much. Dear Lifelight, wonderful invention. Just wondering, what is the accuracy of your detection?
That's goes back to that last point. So the number one thing people ask is it accurate? And we're really happy to share with anyone our validation data. Our pulse measurement, for example, is better than an Apple Watch. Our respiration accuracy is within international standards, as is our blood pressure standard accuracy. So we've been working hard on ensuring that we can match standard of care equipment.
Perfect.
So that's I can bore people with lots of numbers, but we're happy to do that in a breakout session or in the networking.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lawrence. Great presentation. And as always, please find him at the booth later on to directly ask any follow-up questions that you might have. I know there are plenty of them in our tool here. With that, we'd like to shift also our focus now a little bit more towards patient peer groups. So typically, whenever you're diagnosed with some severe, severe indications, diseases, but then also maybe not that severe, but still uncomfortable, we always need to also consider what impact it has on your mental health, and beyond that also on you as an individual. And it's very much easier to work with others and to exchange with others in order to cope with your disease. With that being said, I would like to hand it over to Curatio. You already see the pitch deck here, and to Linda to take us away to their fabulous mission.
Thank you so much, and thanks for this wonderful event and program, Creasphere and Novo Nordisk. Yes, I'd like to talk to you about no patient alone. And when we say that, we look at a type of social health prescription. So we feel that every patient in the world should have a social health prescription. But the challenge has been that it's very difficult for life science companies to use social. Well-designed privacy and regulatory rules make it almost impossible to use mainstream social networks. And mainstream social networks are very open to abuse, difficult to navigate, have erroneous information. And so what we have set out to do is to build a privacy and regulatory compliant social platform that any healthcare organization can plug in to their existing offerings, to build relationships directly with their patients, to deliver value directly to their patient populations, and to gain insights and real-world evidence that they don't have. Our platform is used in about 104 countries to date. We're available in 20 languages, and we're working with some of the world's largest healthcare organizations, as you can see below. What the need is, and what we help our customers do, is build that type of transactional relationship with patients where they can really expand their service offerings and move to delivering value beyond the pill. We also address this need for personalized support and that day-to-day management and coaching and support that is needed for chronic care management, rare disease, lifestyle, and mental health. And so we provide that type of day-to-day support. We're also addressing loneliness and isolation, which is so unfortunately a part of living with a health condition, and the mental health challenges that come with whether you're battling a rare disease or living with a chronic condition. And we help our customers deeply understand the patient experience. We provide contextual data insights and information about their patient populations that they don't have. And this helps them not only deliver value, but also starts to point towards things like predictive analytics and R&D and working towards a cure in many cases. We offer both open and closed communities. Open communities you can think of as above brand, so they can be provided to all patients, freely available, is safe and secure, with curated health information and literacy, coached programs and tracking tools. The majority of work that we do is in our gated white label communities, or what we call our closed communities. And these are branded to look and feel like the patient experience. We'll integrate with patient support programs, hub services, so that wherever the patient onboards, they have this type of social plugin, and that we streamline with our customers' existing workflows. Our platform has woven social through every aspect. So from health literacy to day-to-day management to connecting with peers in a way that is private and secure. And the way that we do that is we have some patented matchmaking technology that takes a one-to-many matchmaking approach. And we're using machine learning in the background so we can better understand the patient experience and deliver the type of health literacy program support that they need. We're also using content personalization so that we can understand where the patient is in their journey, understand what they're going to need next, and to deliver that in a way that is very personalized. We're doing some really neat things with assessments and helping people understand things like their learning styles and personalities as well when it comes to disease management, adherence, and compliance. We're also working with any number of programs. These are very interactive types of programs that run anywhere from 30 days to 12 weeks. We've seen some wonderful evidence of that, 93% satisfaction rate, nice statistically significant improvements in health outcomes and in disease management. Our customers are also really valuing what we call this real-time, real-world evidence, where we have these very robust dashboards that customers can peer into to really see what their patient populations are needing. And this, of course, is an aggregate and de-identified. We are privacy compliant pretty much worldwide. But these aggregate de-identified insights really give them a sense of what their patients need and what they need in real time. So often we're looking at data and it's retrospective, right? This is really real time and future focused. Our work with Novo Nordisk has been wonderful, and we're really so pleased to be involved with this initiative. We've been working in the area of weight management with Novo Nordisk and looking at, converting those new patients that are above brand, as I mentioned, that open community that anyone can participate in, bringing them into that type of engagement and social support and that long-term retention that really augments and drives the utilization of Novo Nordisk's offering. And to provide that type of seamless and holistic experience. So to be the support in between those HCP visits. And of course, to provide new and valuable tools to patients. We have a lot of evidence around the effectiveness of this. We've just completed another very large research study. I'd be happy to share. Thank you for listening, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Linda, for the great pitch, very insightful presentation. And just as you mentioned on your last slide about the clinical studies, maybe can you give a certain indication on how you, on a metric level, improve patient behavior using also online communities?
Mm-hmm. So we have been conducting research now since about 2014. So we have a number of research studies, peer-reviewed, published, evidence-based, and we tend to look at pre and post, and we do baseline comparisons with patient populations in those conditions as well. And so what we're looking for is a combination, and this really speaks to the differentiator of Curatio is we're looking not only at health outcomes, but overall improvement of quality of life, psychosocial scores, well-being, disease management, and navigation. So we use standardized tools like the HEIQ, the well-being assessment, the adherence scale. So any of you in research will recognize those names. So we use standardized tools, and we work with several universities, both nationally and internationally. So a number of PIs that are specialists in this area. The research we've just completed was done with the University of British Columbia's Chronic Disease Prevention and Management Center, just to give you an idea of the type of partners we work with.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Linda. Unfortunately, we're already at time, but to all of you, please feel free to step by digitally and chat with Linda afterwards. So best wishes to Vancouver.
Thank you so much.
So with that being said, we are already done with our first portion of today. We're now having a 10 minutes break. So feel free to mingle, to go to the open tables underneath the main stage and to chat with people that are on the platform at the moment, or grab a coffee. In the meantime, we will already see Olivia's first progress of the scribbling and see her drawing live here on the platform. So see you soon in 10 minutes.
welcome back, and I hope you all enjoyed an exciting networking break, some memorable moments already with other participants, and also establishing new connections along the way. Without further ado, I'm super excited to announce our second corporate partner of today, but also our second corporate partner that has recently joined our platform. The company Biotronik is one of the major international players and leaders in the medtech and cardiovascular space. We're super excited to have them on board and also be their sparring partners in the future innovation endeavors. I'm excited to announce to you Dr. Volker Lang, who is the Senior Vice President of R&D for Cardiac Rhythm Management. So please, Volker, take the virtual stage and enlighten us with your pitch about Biotronik moving into a great innovation future.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. So a very warm welcome also from Biotronik. And let me say it was an extremely exciting and interesting ride in the last couple of months. And we are really excited about the outcome, and we are really excited about the results. Our the collaboration partners we work with are able to present today. Biotronik started this year with batch 6 the first time after we did a test run in the second half of last year. And so we learned a lot to have a fast-paced result, starting only in March with our new partners, and then in June already are able to present results, and also results which gives us really a lot of positive impact in our business. So in this regard, we are super excited and we are super impressed by the partners we had. When I looked at what we achieved in the last couple of months, that we worked through, after we set up 3 challenges, we worked through a lot of different startups. We actually screened 87 startups. And you see the 3 we are selected is also really the best of the best, and we are very grateful we were able to start a partnership with them. Internally, we have people working with that, and I'll show you in a second also exciting cases about that. We were really fast in getting this going, so the startups also taught us as a corporate culture to be a little bit more agile and do a little bit more focused and time-driven. And if I ask my employees, my partners within Biotronik, most of them would do it again right away, possibly with the next batch. So returning customer is always the best. So in this regard, also a very positive experience for us, also for us doing a cultural change to more agility and more openness with external innovations. And here you see just a lot of pictures of the Biotronik people from all over the world, from US and Germany, but also from our partners from the 3 startups which are working with us. So thank you very much from the management team, from Jenny, from Felix and myself that we worked through in the last couple of months and generated the exciting results we will present in a minute. Last but not least, I want to a little bit explain our ecosystem. And our ecosystem we have in place for many years. So we transmit data from our implants into a service center, and we're getting from 400,000 patients every day new messages. But so far, we were not in direct interaction with the patient, and we also, our direct partner are usually hospitals or physicians. So with those 3 challenges, we want to get closer and extend our ecosystem and get closer on one hand to the patient. So challenge number 1 is about patient compliance and patient coaching, because we believe a well-educated patient will be much more successful and will be much healthier with our top-of-the-line medical products. The other thing, if we want to process a lot of data, if we want to use AI technologies to find out new findings, we have the challenge that we need to be allowed to use those data. So we need to have a digital consent management. This means that if we are using data of the patients to generate new research ideas, to generate new products, the patient needs to be aware of that. And how to do it in a very complicated environment where there are many sources of data, and therefore challenge number 2, digital content management. This allows us to extend our ecosystem by a lot. And last but not least, the economic bias. A very important part is it's not enough to give wonderful high quality products to the patient, that we have super service to the physicians, but you also have to show that your products have in total cost of ownership are equal or even better than those of our competitors. And therefore lifecycle consulting, lifecycle cost consulting is very important for us to also extend our ecosystem in this dimension. And for all the 3 challenges, I believe we have wonderful results, and therefore I don't want to increase attention even more. And I would ask the startups to present results, and we are very happy that we joined Creasphere, and we're very happy about the results of this batch number 6. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Volker. Those are great words, a very great presentation, and we of course highly value also your feedback and support you going forward and expanding also further the reach of Biotronik on the innovation scale. A great video and also some very interesting reflections on our program together. For the first focus topic of Biotronik, we're investigating the very important subject of treatment adherence. Why is this subject so important? Because in the US alone, between 100 to 300 billion US dollars are spent on treating and adhering to treatment pathways. So our next company, Catalia Health, is an actual solution to this. So how they try to overcome and treatment adherence by patient education. We have Corey Kidd from San Francisco here to tell you more about this. Corey,
thank you.
Please.
It's been great to participate in this program. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about the work that we've done with Biotronik over the last few months. So to briefly introduce Catalia Health, we focus on chronic disease care management. This has been based on the work that I have done over the last 20 years. I did my PhD in artificial intelligence and psychology at MIT. And the foundation of what we do is really looking at understanding from a psychological and medical perspective, what are the challenges that individuals face when dealing with a particular condition. We work across a number of different areas, oncology, immunology, but one of the first places that we started working was in cardiology. We developed, in collaboration with the American Heart Association, an application using our technology for heart failure patients. And what we focus on is educating patients, following up with patients, guiding them through a course of treatment, and connecting them back to their clinicians. And we have a number of ways that we do this, but the core of it is really 2 pieces. The AI that understands that individual and how we create a conversation on the fly for that person based on what they're doing, their challenges right then. And the interface is this cute little yellow robot that you see on the screen. The rationale behind that is also psychology. The same reason that we would love to all be in person right now, having these conversations face to face with one another, carries over into the world of technology. When we use a physical interface like this, it's much more engaging over time with patients. Now, as we just heard from Biotronik, they've identified a need in looking for better compliance and engagement solutions for their patients and to connect those patients back to their cardiologists. Some of the key features here are really how do we integrate with their existing platform, and how do we take something that we have right now in the United States and roll this out worldwide to support their patients all over the globe. This collaboration was really about understanding where we are today and where we need to be to jointly roll this out worldwide. So understanding the technology integration, which we were able to do together, understand what we need to do in order to achieve medical device approval worldwide, look at our ability to scale up to the needs of Biotronik, and look at Nebu, this robot interface, directly with both Biotronik employees and a new set of patients so that Biotronik could get some hands-on experience seeing the patient value of using this kind of a program to achieve sustained engagement. We've had a great time working with Biotronik. They've been excellent partners. They've been able to move incredibly quickly in terms of going through everything on that list on the last slide. I think both sides believe this has been a successful collaboration, and we are excited to explore next steps jointly together to understand how we can roll this out to many more patients in the near future.
Thank you, Corey, for that great presentation. And we're now coming to our Q&A section, and we already have the first questions coming in from the audience. So, Corey, maybe you can tell us how your service actually improves treatment and adherence on a metric level first.
So one of the biggest challenges in any chronic condition is simply keeping patients on a program for longer. And that's the key place where we make a difference. A lot of our current work is in the specialty pharmacy space. We work with customers like Pfizer and Novartis to roll out programs for their patients. And what we've shown in these commercial rollouts is compared to existing programs where you might have nurses or pharmacists calling patients every month, we're keeping patients on therapy for significantly longer.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Corey. We actually also have another one, and that's more around the data that you're collecting. And the question is, are you collecting patient-reported outcomes? And have you considered using your solution in a framework of value-based healthcare to give insights and actually report outcomes?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that we can do through these conversations with patients is collect a significant amount of data about disease states, including patient-reported outcomes, real-world evidence. We've built a platform for Novartis for use in clinical trials. We're certainly very excited to use this in value-based care. To me, it's exciting after 20 years in this space to finally see some real movement towards that kind of payment, those kinds of incentives around providing successful care. And we're certainly excited about opportunities to do that.
Great, Corey. Maybe one last question for the Q&A bit. So what other aspects are relevant to foster treatment adherence that your product currently does not cover?
Well, the way that we look at things there are three areas that we focus on around symptoms, side effects of a treatment, and psychosocial issues like stress, anxiety, and depression. So it's easy to list those three in 5 or 10 seconds. The depth that we need to go into to continue supporting patients, continue adding new content, new features, new abilities to follow up on patients is something that we're constantly striving for. So across every disease state that we're working in, we're always adding in new information to help support patients and the challenges that they face.
Thank you, Corey, for that great presentation, also for the Q&A. And of course, everybody can find you in your own startup booth on the Meet Anywhere platform for further discussions and also conversations.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. With that being said, we are now coming to the second Biotronik batch company. We're truly excited to welcome Confirmed Consent to the virtual stage. The company is one of the players in the consent management, the patient consent management market, a very important subject, and they have a very funny quote that describes also their background of the business. And I will quote now the founders themselves, who stated, "What happens when a physician, a psychologist, and also a lawyer walk into a bar?" Fabian, what do you think?
Difficult to say. I would probably say a lot of memories are created, but maybe also lost.
That's true. That's very true. But in that instance, the founder said confirmed consent was created. So quite a fitting quote, I think, because it describes the multifold nature of consent management here. So with us today, we have Sina Hurl from Texas. Please lead us away with your pitch and tell us more about how this quote reflects also confirmed consent on an operational level.
Absolutely. Can you folks hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Beautiful. So first and foremost, I want to take the opportunity to just thank Plug and Play, for giving us an opportunity. As everybody knows, in the startup world, it's always hard. It's a challenge to get in front of decision makers and to really have your impact shown. The fact that they made the connection between us and Biotronik means a lot to us as a company. So from the leadership team, a sincere thank you to your team for giving us this opportunity. Our program with Biotronik began with just getting to know each other and understanding what the problem is. We at our core are a digital consent management company. I myself am a physician, and about 4 years ago, I noticed that the way the consenting was being done wasn't the right way, because I was having multiple patients waiting in other rooms. In the back of my head, I was thinking about efficiency in the office. I could notice on the patients' faces sometimes that they weren't just quite getting everything that they needed. And put yourself in their position. The patient walks into your office, they're told that they have a diagnosis, and they're trying to process that diagnosis. While they're doing that, while they're going through the anxiety of that, maybe the loved one is not next to them. Now they're hit with the details of the procedure, and it's not surprising that a majority of the patients don't retain all the information. So when you think about the traditional consent, you go into a physician's office, you're told you have a problem, and you're told this is what we want to do. Because it's a very redundant task, a lot of physicians will delegate the responsibility to an assistant or a nurse, and they don't give you the information themselves. Because it's a redundant task, it's flawed in the sense that a lot of times the physicians will just kind of brush it off and rush through it. Accordingly, when you look at the published literature, 60% of our patients walk out of our offices not being able to recite the details of the consent. What are they going to do to me? What are the risks? What are the options that I have? And because of that, the old consenting methodology is now antiquated. With the advent of technology, with the advancements that we have, we should and can do better. And when it comes specifically to Biotronik and talking to their executive team, the problem they were facing is that they have a lot of data coming in. Their pain points are they have to rely on the physician to get an appropriate consent on the patient. And secondly, what if you want to do something with that data later on that might truly impact that patient's life or the population at large? That continued communication without having to go through an intermediary is a valuable tool to have in your disposal. So because of that, as we talked about it in the video, we did customer discovery. We met with Biotronik first, then we went to several cardiologists, both in academic and private settings, sat down with them and tried to understand what the workflow is. And what we decided to do was to create a solution that, one, was going to solve Biotronik's pain points, but two, was not going to be a hindrance to the surgeon's normal workflow, because that inherently impacts adoption. We decided that we had to have a digital consent solution that was going to be not only HIPAA compliant on the state side, but also GDPR compliant on the European Union side. So because of that, our in-house counsel began researching and talking to various stakeholders to understand what the ramifications there were going to be. We wanted to make sure it was a cloud-based platform that did not require downloading an app, because that inherently becomes a barrier to adoption. We wanted to make sure we were highly modular. The Biotronik folks can attest to the fact that we've gone through multiple iterations, because again, workflows are different and you have to be nimble enough to move pieces around. We wanted to be available in any language, specifically in the US. If you go to the Southern Texas region, it's heavily Spanish speaking. So we have the ability to flip the platform entirely in Spanish, because when you provide the information in the patient's native language, it's inherently more effective. And we wanted to make sure that every patient got a standardized and documented delivery of the information, so that there were no questions left unanswered about what information they got and if the consent they gave was valid or not. And lastly, we wanted to make sure that there was communication bidirectionally between the surgeon and the patient. So with that said, we modified our platform to suit these needs. The cardiologist will sit in front of a camera, just like I'm sitting right now, and he or she will look into the camera and counsel the camera as though it was a patient that's getting an ablation or a pacemaker, whatever it may be. This is not hard. We provide a script, but we do this over and over again as clinicians all day long. We take that video, our in-house team does editing, closed captioning, foreign language translation, and we put it into the system. From that point on, anytime the patient comes in for that specific procedure, instead of spending time in the office rushing through the consent, they get a secure link, they go home with their loved ones at their side, and they view the material. They can go back and watch the videos as many times as they want. And our data now, after 10,000 consents having gone through the platform, show that patients on average watch the video about 3 times. Once that is done, they go through a series of questions that are specifically designed for that workflow. And they provide a consent that's not only shared with the physician group, but also with Biotronik and any other stakeholders. So with that said, we have developed a platform that hopefully will save physicians time to improve adoption, that will improve understanding for the patients so that they feel that they're making the right decision for the right reasons. And we are excited to launch 2 clinical pilots in the US, hopefully 2 more beyond that, to take that provider and patient feedback and share it with the Biotronik team. And at that juncture, discuss the next steps. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Sina. And I want to echo your words also back that we're super thankful to have you on our platform, to have you also working in our batch together with such a great player like Biotronik is. So first up, our first question is, what are the most important aspects of achieving successful consent management?
Absolutely. So you have to consider 3 factors. 1, making sure that it doesn't disrupt the clinician's workflow, because that inherently will stop adoption. 2, you have to ensure that material is delivered in a manner that the patient will understand, that the clinician is speaking at an 8th grade level, no complex jargon, that it's delivered in video in their own words, and the patient has time to process that. And 3rd, specifically to Biotronik, you want to make sure all the elements of the consent and data use, especially for GDPR, are addressed so that there's no question after the fact about if the consent was appropriate or not.
Fantastic. 3 very clear answers to that question. One more question, originally being from the States and dealing a lot with their compliance regulatory issues. What do you see, what's the major difference between European consent management and American consent management?
So there's 2 fundamental differences. First, the clinicians operate differently. Clinicians on the state side versus the European side fundamentally operate differently. Their workflows are different. So because of that, again, it's useful to have a physician on the team to be able to adapt to those workflows because we speak the same language, kind of inside baseball talk. The second part is the regulatory issues. And this came up with the Biotronik team. Just to do a simple demo for the Biotronik team that's based in Germany, not in the US, we had to go through multiple iterations that our CTO, Alex, took it upon himself to do to discuss the legalities of sending text messages, 2-factor authentication with AWS, who does our hosting, to make sure the German servers were allowed to do the tasks that we take for granted on the state side. So there's a lot of behind the scenes regulatory movement that we have to do to make sure we're compliant. Fortunately, AWS has a wide reach, so we're able to get the solutions pretty quickly. But those are the two factors that come into play.
Thank you, Sina. And maybe one last question by the audience. Do you have metrics how confirmed consent improves the consent management for hospitals? So looking at the cost factors, but also looking at time saved.
Absolutely. So we look at, and we have a pretty elegant calculator for this. On the provider side, we do keep track of how much time the patient spends on the consenting process and how that translates into the productivity of the clinician. How much time are they saving? What is the monetary value assigned to that? On the patient side, we track the patient's satisfaction with the overall process, and we are proud that we carry an over 90% net promoter score.
Incredible. I mean, that sounds truly incredible. And with Biotronik, you also have a great partner at hand to further grow the business and implement the solution. So thank you, Sina. And of course, we would keep in touch beyond the program scope as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. So next up, we will have the final startup on the Biotronik side, a great company called Capsico Health. They are active in a super pioneering field of value-based healthcare. So really looking at the healthcare system in the future and trying to achieve a state where you decrease the cost, the healthcare cost for providers, but also for insurers, while increasing final patient value. So how they implement that, how they achieve such a bold vision, we have Ramesh Yaka here, the founder of Capsico Health from Palo Alto, to tell us more about this. So please, Ramesh, lead us away with your pitch.
Thank you, Max. Are you able to hear me fine?
Yes, indeed.
Wonderful. Just want to do a quick check. We're extremely excited to be here. We want to thank Creasphere for getting us connected to Biotronik. They have a very interesting project, and it really excited us because of the value-based care work that we do. So clearly, our interest was in applying value-based care methodology and some AI models for life cycle revenue and cost forecasting, which is one of the requirements that Biotronik brought together as a part of this initial innovation activity. So what was the actual problem we're trying to solve? So Biotronik went back and did some research in 2019 with their providers, and they found that they really wanted to get a life cycle cost tool for the economic buyers at hospitals, outpatient centers, ambulatory clinics, both in the US and also in Europe. And the challenge was to really bring together this sort of a life cycle cost tool as a proof of concept and as a working pilot over the past few months. And so the challenge was to really build a visualization tool, a database of information about providers to be able to forecast and visualize the cost life cycle cost for their implantable cardiac monitors, the ICMs. And also to be able to provide such a tool to the hospital economic buyers to be able to track their costs, track the revenue, and actually to see what value are these ICMs offering to them when they purchase them. So that was a core challenge and background. As a company, we got excited about this because we really are involved in value-based care and population risk. Our goal is how do we reduce costs for providers, reduce costs in the healthcare system. In the end, our goal is to be able to reduce the overall GDP costs for healthcare across the world. Our founders are from IBM Watson, Stanford, Berkeley, and we've also run companies in the past. Our team is a mix of physicians, data scientists, engineers, and we've been headquartered in California, but also we have an office in Europe as well. And our focus has been on how do we bring value-based care methodologies and simplify the understanding of payment models for both providers, payers, and life science companies involved in value-based care. And we've done a lot of work in collecting a lot of data. We currently manage data for about 85 million beneficiaries. So we're able to use that for benchmarking, for value-based risk, compare and contrast spend, and to be able to use such large data sets to do a much better job in looking at where are the cost trends, are there ways to reduce costs dramatically. So our offering is an AI-driven analytics platform that rapidly analyzes billions of EMR and that's EHR and claims data sets, so we can model population risk, outcomes, and eventually look at future revenue and also areas where we can reduce costs. We believe there's a lot of waste in the system that we could potentially cut down costs by anywhere from 10 to 15% if we do a good job looking at where the actual insights are through the data. So what were the actual scenarios for this particular 3-month innovation activity? The first was to be able to get a sales tool in the front of a sales rep, which is almost like a calculator tool that would forecast if they sell a certain number of ICMs to a specific provider, what would be the future revenue for the provider, what would be the value for the provider, and is it going to be a value over the next 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years? That was supposed to be an interactive tool. That also would consider, for example, the reimbursement within a certain region in the US. Our focus was in the US market. The second was a tool which was actually for the hospital economic buyers. These are the purchasing managers and others, including physicians, who are looking to see, well, if I buy an ICM from Biotronik, what would be the future value of it? I'm able to identify AF conditions, other cardiac conditions accurately. I'm able to see a much better, true positive rate and a higher accuracy, and therefore I'm able to reach the patient faster. And so the important thing for them was, when I purchase the ICMs from Biotronik, can I be able to do a better job in care delivery and potentially also do a better job in ensuring that I actually give them the right procedures. And so our goal was to build this tool and to be able to host it live on an external website for the Biotronik team. And our scope was to not just do it for the US market, but also to expand to other markets in the future. So our methodology here, I want to just get down to some details here, was to really look at, when you sell an ICM to a provider, whether it's a hospital or an outpatient center or anybody who's offering care, how would they see revenue opportunity once they get the device? What is the value behind it? So we looked at many, many factors, everything from reimbursement, accuracy of identification, are there any potential copay and reimbursement issues within a certain region? What kind of procedures would be done once you identify the atrial fibrillation conditions? What's the cost of medication therapy? What would be the cost of home-based care? So we looked at many factors, and all of these factors went into a forecasting model that was basically an auto-regressive model that can actually give you a forecast of the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. And so this became a very important part of our discussion. I've really enjoyed working with Biotronik and team because they brought a lot of insight into how they saw reimbursement and how they saw future value for the devices that they're currently selling. And so we went ahead and launched a successful pilot. We set up a website. We have the tools now being used by the team just from a validation point of view. We are making some good progress in working with the sales directors and sales managers. And our goal is not just to look at specific hospitals or look at specific regions, help compare and contrast the cost and revenue life cycle within a certain region, because each region in the US, there's different payment models, there's different labor costs, many things to consider. So we really brought together a lot of information at one place so we can actually help both the life cycle cost analysis for Biotronik's devices, at the same time, give them a sort of a market advantage in terms of what they're looking at within a certain region. So let me just stop here and take some questions.
Fantastic, great pitch, Ramesh. So as your approach is very well aligned with value-based healthcare, there's the question, where do we stand in the implementation following this approach? And which region do you think has a head start here?
So we are currently focused on the US region with Biotronik in specific. And in Biotronik, in the US region, there's a lot of interest in looking at high cost areas. For example, Florida, New York State, Texas, especially areas where there's high incidence of atrial fibrillation, high incidence of cardiac areas. That means you'd end up going to areas where people are older who are retiring and clearly want to be able to target those areas. But at the same time, it's also areas where there's a lot of congestion in terms of cities, traffic, pollution, environment playing a role. They're going to have a big impact on respiratory and cardiac conditions. And that's also very important. And as you know, there's a lot of now new research on how infections can drive cardiac conditions. So it's not just about age, it's also other factors playing a role, including the COVID-19 situation as well. So, and we want to then eventually move to the European market to look at places like Italy, Spain, Germany, France, and other places where there's a lot of interest in cardiac conditions. Clearly, heart failure is one of the top topics within Europe. And so we're looking at that as the next activity.
Great, Ramesh. And maybe another question by the audience, as also treatment outcome quality is at the heart of value-based healthcare. How can you actually track and also assess quality outcomes here?
That's a good point. So because of the fact that we manage several billion records for about 85 million patients, we're able to look at longitudinally what was the quality outcome a few years back versus the future outcome, expected future outcome, readmissions, hospital admissions, first-time hospital admissions, emergency room admissions, clearly length of stay, and also the number of medication they're taking and what has been the outcome because of that. So there's a lot of work we're doing in looking at the drug outcomes, the drug dose outcomes in certain areas, including medical device outcomes, and not just cardiac, but also in hip and knee procedures. So there's a lot of interest by looking at this large data set to see, have the devices, have the drugs provided the value, and have the patients recovered over the 6-month period that they said they recover, or has it taken much longer? So the disease progression analysis combined with outcomes analysis has been a big part of our data set. And that's been driving our case studies and also analysis.
Great, Ramesh. Maybe one last question, as this is quite a pioneering field. What are the major hurdles you identify, you see when implementing a value-based healthcare model and also systematic approach?
It's a good question. In the US, the biggest concern has been pay for performance, which is how do you handle different payment models And how do you tie that to outcomes? There's a lot of resistance from providers, a lot of resistance from other agencies. Clearly, the federal government and insurance businesses want to impose certain pay-for-performance models tied to quality. At the same time, they also want to make sure that the patients get the best possible care. So I think understanding the reimbursement policies, the regulations, the impact to care is critical. I think value-based care is at a very early stage, but clearly there are some areas that can be implemented quickly. So that's a big challenge for us, is to understand those policies and understand what makes sense. Secondly, monitoring. You collect a lot of data, right? Without collecting data, you can't really do much value-based care. So are hospitals willing to share data? Are payers are interested in sharing data? Are pharma companies interested in sharing data? And can we collect the data at one place so we can actually see for ourselves, where are the costs? Where is the life cycle happening? Where do we see areas we can cut costs? So data collection has been a huge issue. It took us almost 2.5 years to collect data for 85 million patients. And I'm sure it's going to take us another few years to collect further 85 million patients in terms of data sets. So that's a real challenge for us.
Great, Ramesh. Thank you very much again for that very insightful pitch, and also the exciting Q&A section, and furthermore also for your participation in the program together with Biotronik. And with that being said, we come now to the end of the Biotronik section. Again, also thank you to all other startups involved here, and especially to the very engaged corporate partner teams on the Biotronik side. I know they have done a remarkable job in working together with the startups. And with that being said, we now come to our second networking break. Again, we highly encourage you to interconnect also with other participants throughout our platform. And for that in specific, we have the one-on-one speed dating tool, where you're randomly allocated to other participants on the platform. So please feel free to use that, and have a happy networking, and see you later in the next section of the Roche pitches. Hello and welcome back after the break. I hope you enjoyed the random one-on-ones. That's really something that we're missing throughout the last couple of months, to meet new people you might not even think they are valuable or very easy to speak with. But this tool, we truly like it a lot. With that being said, it's my honor now to welcome our oldest partner, Roche, to the stage. We've created a lot of good memories over the last 2.5 years, ever since we started the Startup Creasphere journey together. Before we welcome our speaker, I would like to say a special thanks to the team on the ground, to our champions who have put a lot of effort jointly into that program and have made it such a success. With that being said, I'd like to welcome Okan Ekinci,
the head of marketing and innovation at Roche Information Solutions, to the stage. It's a fairly new encounter, but we would like to welcome you to our startup Creasphere family, and we're looking very much forward to your words about the vision with startup Creasphere, but then also about Roche and their years to come.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Good morning from the San Francisco Bay Area. On behalf of Roche and our startup Creasphere team, a very warm welcome to EXPO 6. It's indeed correct. I'm new, a new face to this team. However, our team with startup Creasphere right from the get-go is the same team that is still in place. So also on behalf of that team, again, a very warm welcome. As a founding member of startup Creasphere, as you said, rightfully, it's a particular pleasure to welcome our collaborating startups as well. And of course, the new corporate member. We always welcome the opportunity to see new companies at the table and joining this crowd here. So welcome to Novo Nordisk as well. In a few minutes, 8 exciting startups will present the status of their pilot projects. It's really impressive to see the span of innovation areas that we were able to cover jointly, ranging from topics like clinical decision support to pre-analytics topics in the lab, to care coordination, and from data analytics to digital therapeutics. So it's really a very, very wide range of topics that we are able to cover with the startups. Needless to say, of course, the digital health space has indeed the potential to significantly change the way care is being delivered. It is, for me at least personally, the best time to be in the sector. However, on the other side, while the barriers to entry are low, the barriers to adoption are still high and are getting higher at some places even. So 2 of the main barriers are, I think, evidence and regulation. Most of the healthcare systems are looking increasingly for clear evidence that the digital products and services deliver the value that they promise. And most of the healthcare systems have increasingly complex regulations and policies, as you know, either beyond data privacy side, security side, interoperability requirements and whatnot. So therefore, we are asking, of course, ourselves the question, is EXPO 6 just another number, or is this also starting to become something where we need to think about how can we add further value? So having an acceleration program is one thing, but looking into ways how we can further, let's say, foster the implementation and adoption of digital tools in the market is another thing, right? So we therefore think going forward, want to explore new ways as to how we can support startups in getting access and adoption in clinical routine. For that, on one side, we want to leverage further our global and local access, regulatory and evidence generation capabilities. But on the other side, we also want to expand the use of the innovation ecosystem when we deliver solutions. And solutions here is not meant to be just one individual piece of software like an application, but rather think in terms of clinical pathways and in a patient-centric fashion. What are the components that actually need to be brought together in a meaningful fashion to deliver a bigger value proposition, to deliver, let's say, a performance indicator improvement that matters to the healthcare system or to the individual institution. So that's the area where we are looking into right now. So how can we design and provide those solutions that allow our customers to create, on one side, actionable insights, but on the other side, change care. Last but not least, I think one other thing where we see now barriers, the more we see adoption on one side, the barrier is the change capability of our customers. So one thing is to say we have designed a solution together with 1, 2, or 3 startups that might, for instance, change the way how let's say heart failure is being managed or patients with heart failure are managed. The other thing is, how do we change the environment where these solutions should create the impact? And one of the biggest barriers, and we should not neglect that, is the inertia that might be in the system. So our tools might deliver value theoretically, but practically to create that impact requires additional change efforts that we want to support our customers with as well. So basically, be there with the customer up until the value is created and deliver additional, let's say, services like change management support, like digital literacy to also enable, for instance, implementation of AI-enabled solutions in the market will be going forward very critical for us to also support the likelihood that these individual startups have really a faster time to market and faster adoption in the market. So our commitment to startup Creasphere continues. Let me thank the participating startups, the plug and play team, and all the teams on the Roche side that participate in the program, but also drive the program. So with that, I want to, let's say, limit my attention span here, or limit my time here and change gears and introduce our startups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Okan, for those words and also those insights to everything you're doing at the moment. We're truly looking forward to continue our journey together and also expand into different locations across the globe. With that, I would like to shift the focus now to the first startups of the Roche team. Before we jump into their pitches, we will see a quick introduction video. And with that, I would hand it over to our studio.
Many of the chronic diseases in the Roche portfolio include physical therapy as key components of a multidisciplinary care. Now, novel disease-modifying treatments improve patients' functional capacity, increasing the need to leverage this potential. Our startup partner, MIRA, has developed an expandable platform able to integrate various sensors to track movements. Their solution addresses the compliance with therapy problem by combining exercise with gaming. Get excited how we turn therapy into fun.
Hi, my name is Matt Papagno from MIRA Rehab. MIRA is a digital health company focused on physical and cognitive therapies. Through the Startup Creasphere program and together with Roche, we've been challenged to use our software to treat specific indications. So far, we've worked with physiotherapists, patient advocacy groups, as well as researchers to work on our solution. We look forward to seeing the solution through to the finish line with our Roche partners.
The development of disease-modifying therapies for neuromuscular diseases is on the rise, and as such, patients need access and adherence to specialized physiotherapy to optimize the benefit of these newly developed therapies.
Collaborating with Wave and using their robust, extremely precise joint tracking technology will allow us to solve those problems and increase patients' quality of life.
At Wave, we have digitized personal coaches for fitness. With our partners at Roche, we are now looking at the regulatory space, and we have set 2 goals to evaluate. First is our camera-based motion analysis, able to robustly reproduce feedback given by a therapist. And second is a patient willing to use such an app in a home setting. We have created a web app, set up a user trial with exact evaluation metrics, and will be able to present on EXPO Day the opportunity of creating a digital physio coach together.
Compared to the technology that requires specialized equipment, the benefit of Wave is availability on smartphones, tablets, and therefore highly accessible to many patients. Different backgrounds of our team members have shown us how important and beneficial diversity can be. And therefore, we would like to invite your unique set of expertise to our lovely cross-divisional group.
Nemesysco provides a unique voice analysis technology that detects genuine emotional responses using vocal biomarkers, completely independent of language and intonation.
We're testing InTone as a supporting tool for our customer support center specialists. We use this basically during our process when we have to support our customers in fixing their issues, or together with them actually fixing the issues. What we do can be very complex, requires a lot of knowledge, and as an example, documentation can be very lengthy. Understanding the customer pain points and also interest at the very beginning of this is key for us and potentially a very big driver for success. We're testing InTone to try and understand whether this can help us to actually find in difficult situations and ambiguous moments guidance and help.
For the pilot with Roche, we have delivered InTone, a contact center application that gives operators real-time insights about the client's emotional reactions during calls. These insights guide agents towards a customer-tailored experience, allowing them to build a positive rapport with the clients, quickly identify unexpressed pain points and signs of dissatisfaction, and elevate customer experience while removing cultural and language barriers.
Deigma is a highly scalable solution for the traceability of precious health products. In medical biology, 70% of the test results error are directly the consequence of a bad processing of the blood sample, which is due to the lack of traceability. In a Roche customer laboratory, we installed a solution to both track the sample quality and to anticipate the tube flow and prescription, what is much lab's job, a pain point exacerbated during the COVID pandemic.
At Roche, we deliver the best care and the best diagnostics to our patient. To do that, we looked at the end-to-end workflow of samples and saw a high need for improved monitoring and quality tracking of the sample in the pre-analytical phase, which means before the sample arrives to the lab. To do that, we worked with Deigma to integrate their solution within our digital platform to look and improve the traceability and the quality of sample in the sphere. As part of Creasphere, we decided to start a pilot with a customer to test and validate the benefits of this solution.
So now that you've seen the first four pitches, the first four intros of the startups, it's time to jump into their pitches and also to gain a little bit more of insight into what they're doing. Talking about the first startup, in the context of telemedicine, we always think about general practitioners, about specialists, and we often tend to neglect rehabilitation. But that's also a crucial part of the journey. So MIRA takes a very interesting approach here, and what gamification has to do with it, Matt will tell you all about it. So Matt, please, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody for putting this all together. And I can't believe we're here today, concluding the Startup Creasphere program already. It seems like we've just begun. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yeah, we do.
Brilliant. So here at MIRA, we're on a simple mission, and the mission is to motivate patients to get better in a faster, easier, and more fun way. We're a digital health company focused on physical therapy as well as cognitive therapy. And again, the key to everything that we do is about motivating and creating at a level of accountability within the patient population seeking rehabilitation. This came from the major issue facing therapy, which is that there's very low compliance. I'm sure that those who have heard my pitch before have heard me say that my wife is a physical therapist, so I can speak personally to this. Not only that, but I've also had multiple knee surgeries, right? So anybody who's listening today that's been prescribed physical therapy, you remember getting that piece of paper and sent home and told to do your exercises. Well, you're not alone if you didn't do them, because 14% of patients never return after the first physical therapy visit, and more than 70% of patients do not comply completely with their physical therapy routine. This leads to significant cost, not just financial, but on the human toll, frustration from bad results, and obvious cost from readmissions and excess healthcare that is needed. And that's where MIRA comes in. So MIRA was founded in 2012 or earlier as a college project out of Romania, which created that product there on the left, which is MIRA Clinic. Using three-dimensional motion tracking technology, we pair this with over 450 different exergame combinations. Essentially, a patient is feeling that they're doing their rehabilitation while immersed in a video game. These games are simple and easy to follow and highly customizable, so that if a patient perhaps had a stroke today and entered rehabilitation tomorrow, the games can be customized to their specific needs so that the patient can achieve a high score or feel success. Whether they're driving a submarine or fishing or playing football, it doesn't matter. They can be in the game and experiencing that rehab. Today, MIRA is now available from home with the use of webcam technology, and we're moving to a even more mobile platform as we move toward 2022. And the end result is this. We are seeing compliance greater than 70% from our internal data. In some of our clinical studies, we see that as high as 86%. This is one mentioned here. In 2019, MIRA completed a randomized control study with the help of the University of Manchester. Here we showed that we could reduce patient falls by 64%. and 9 out of 10 patients preferred MIRA to standard physical therapy. It's interesting that our patient population ranges from the ages 3 to 102. We've been using over 70,000 rehab sessions and have tons of clinical data just like this one to support what we're doing. It's a major market. Here in the US, we say it's a 19 billion near-term market of patients with total joint replacements, neurorehabilitation, the active aging population, and those pediatric cases in which neurorehabilitation is required. You can see that as we scale, we're growing through partnerships in the UK and EU, all the way abroad to international and Southeast Asia. You know, we're not the only folks in this market. You'll see a lot of digital health companies that are focusing on physical therapy more and more than ever. But what I'll say is that MIRA offers a unique experience. There's not many people out there that are offering gamification like we are. Essentially, you are immersing yourself in your therapy without even realizing it. You simply think you're playing a video game. So it's engaging, it's motivating, we're very accessible, and it's a hardware agnostic program. We've worked with Roche through our partners, and it's been such an amazing experience to see what we can potentially do in the future together with this technology in for specific utilizations and even more growth to the platform. It's been a really fun ride. Here you can see our team, 3 of our original co-founders, us 2 US-based guys at the top here, and our software developers who've been with us since 2015. And ultimately, this is the note that I'll end on. MIRA is on a mission, right? Within the next 10 years, we believe that we'll be the global leader in digital health, especially for the physical therapy world. We would like to increase our rehabilitation compliance even more than it is today by creating more engaging content and releasing new items for patients to experience. And I truly believe we'll get to over 1 million users through our platform. Thank you very much for listening and for your time.
Thank you, Matt, for your engaging pitch and also for your close participation within the program setting. So with that being said, we already kickstart our Q&A session and we have the first questions coming in. So maybe one question up front, what would be the next milestone for MIRA Rehab beyond the program scope? Do you have anything planned for maybe the end of this year on an innovation technological side, but also if you want to elaborate on your further commercialization?
Absolutely, of course. Actually, our MIRA, I'm sorry, I'm hearing a bit of feedback. Our MIRA users are probably very used to seeing updates when they log into the program. We're always adding new game content and software. Our development team has been working mostly this year on creating platforms where patients can be engaged from home. We've all learned through the past 18 months as we're experiencing this program from home, patients want to experience their care from home. So we're becoming more mobile, and I think you'll see us move even more mobile with new innovations coming soon.
Fantastic. Great news, Matt. Quick question. We've seen that your adherence is very good throughout the studies. When we talk about the solution per se, what's the what's the general uptake over the course of the last couple of months? And then could you explain a little bit about like what's the direct customer feedback in terms of a clinical setting?
Yeah, so back to the earlier question too about commercialization. Primarily, MIRA has been a research and development company focused on clinical data and building this robust platform before. Yet through very little commercial effort, we're now active in 14 countries. We've had over 70,000 rehab sessions with over 5,000 patients. And those numbers grow quarterly. Every day, more and more patients are engaging the system. Most of our customers that have been with us for many years stay with us, and they continue to grow with us because the platform continues to be engaging. So yeah, we see great customer retention and strong feedback from the community. We like to say that our MIRA users become really a community of conversation. And you follow us on LinkedIn when we're always adding resources for our community to gather, such as next week, and things where we get together and talk about things that are challenging to our community.
Fantastic. That's fabulous news. One last question, and that's around the gamification approach. Sure. Since the age group you're targeting mostly is a little bit older, what are critical parts of the game design?
So I would say it's an interesting question because my 5- and 7-year-old children love playing MIRA games. And, you know, so does my 91-year-old grandmother, right? So everybody in between plays MIRA. And the reason is they're simple and easy to follow. We're not playing video games like you see on the television, like Call of Duty or things like this. They are simple games and easy to follow, right? You're steering a bumblebee to a flower. You're going fishing off the edge of a boat and avoiding sharks, or you're driving a submarine. You know, they're awful fun. They're also very simple. And you know, you may be doing the same shoulder motion, for example, 3 days in a row, but having such a unique experience, you ignore that shoulder issue and you just have fun with the game. So also worth noting is that there's a daily leaderboard. So if anybody has MIRA access, feel free to challenge and see if you can get to a leaderboard of one of our games with our global customers.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Matt, for the participation, for the great interaction. And for everyone who wants to chat afterwards, please feel free to join Matt at the booth.
Of course. And thank you guys to Plug and Play and Creasphere and Roche and the whole team for everything of this program. It's been truly brilliant. Thank you very much.
Likewise, absolutely. So with that being said, we would like now to take a different angle on the same problem. Wei actually copes with movement as well, but more from a fitness angle, and how they differentiate and how their business model also differentiates. Joel will also tell you all about it. So please, Joel, the stage is yours.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm Joel. I'm the CEO of Wei. With Wei, we're the #1 provider of computer vision-based motion analysis in the connected fitness space. But today I want to talk about something else. Today I want to talk about a physical therapist, but not just any physical therapist. I want to talk about the physical therapist that's in your pocket on your phone. Now, let's first look at the state of the art and on the problems of physical therapy today. So there's 3 main problems. First one being, and MIRA has already mentioned that in their pitch, patients do their exercises wrong. Second, they don't do them at all because they're lazy. And third, they stop as soon as they get better, but that's not okay. There's a second problem, and that's the whole transparency. First of all, the patients are asking themselves, am I doing my exercises correctly? I don't know. Second, the therapists, they have no idea if when I come back, and I can tell you from my own experience, whenever I did physical therapy, I went back a week later to my therapist and he would ask me, did you do your 5 sessions at home? I was like, maybe 2. So missing transparency for therapists. If the patients have actually done their exercises, they cannot tailor the program. And last but not least, the payers, they have no idea what they're paying for. So now, together with the team at Roche, we have identified what this digital physio coach should look like. And we have identified 5 key points. First one being, there has to be an easy setup for the therapist. This cannot be a hurdle. Second, it must also be simple for the training at home, simple to use. That can be a web app, it can be a mobile app, basically any kind, but it has to be really simple with clear instructions from the digital coach. Now, third, and that's where our technology that we have already developed comes in. There must be feedback during the training because people tend to not have a very good feeling about their own body, about their anatomy, and about how they have to do their exercises. 4, there has to be a good transparency. So the therapist has to be able to easily check if the patient has done his or her exercises. And 5, and I'm pretty sure at some point we will collaborate with MIRA, by the way, that there needs to be a motivation for patients. That can be everything from very motivating coach, but an interactive feeling during your workout, plus, of course, the gamification aspect. Now, for our pilot, we have investigated the Parkinson disease, and patients having this disease, they have to do all kinds of physical exercises next to the drug delivery. So at home, for example, one exercise that they need to do is balance with internal perturbations. And we have created an easy to use web app for this pilot. First, when the patient would visit this web app, would be an instruction, a video instruction of a coach. We worked together with Renee, our physical therapist for this project, and she would explain in a video how to do the exercise. Now, next up is just basic setup instructions for how to use this web app, because you need to be fully on screen and you need to turn the volume up to get the feedback from the digital coach. And then once it would start, I'm just going to show you the video.
Great job.
And there you go. Kind of a creepy
Slow
voice
down.
was one feedback, of course, but you see how our computer vision technology
Raise your arm higher.
tracks my body movements in real time. It
Reach
detects
further
my
by leaning in with
repetitions.
your trunk.
It detects my repetitions and it gives me feedback how to perform
Great job.
the exercise correctly. After that, you would come to a summary screen. And of course, for this pilot, we wanted to have a survey of all the users who tried this. Now, I can tell we were mainly interested in two things. First, result consistency. So is our technology able to reproduce robustly the feedback of the actual physical therapist? And we can say with a very good conscience that the verifiability of the exercise being done is actually given. So we have analyzed 200 repetitions and we had a result of a F1 score of 98%. So the physical therapist will be able to properly check, has the exercise been done? The other thing, of course, is it really helpful for the patients? So can the feedback provided help them to achieve good form? And we had 4 mistakes tracked that you have seen in the video. And first, we only had a feedback match on average of 80%, but with some more training of the machine learning algorithms, we achieved almost 90%. So with good conscience, we can say we will definitely get there at some point. So we have the verifiability proven, and we just require more training, more data, and more patience for a proper clinical study to replicate the feedback that physical therapists would give. The second thing we were interested is the patient experience. So do patients actually like to work out with the digital physio coach? We had the results that the ease of use was more or less given. So we were able to really also get valuable insights on how patients would use them. We had the instructions, so the video was clearly favored next to written instructions. We had the feedback during the exercises that audio is actually the optimal channel, but there is some more human-like feeling to it that patients would prefer. And last of all, we were really happy that the app quality, despite it being very basic in our opinion, we only had 3 months, was rated with 5 out of 5. So patients would say the biggest feedback we got is, I have the feeling of not being left alone when doing my exercise at home. After all, 96% of the over 30 people who have used this web app would use it for at-home physical therapy, which is a great result for us. 93% would also share the results with their therapists, and 91% would want to use the tool also as a direct communication to the therapist. So building this digital physio coach as a platform also for patient and therapist interaction would be highly recommended. Now, we do believe that our technology can be applied in every part of a patient's journey, from fitness and prevention or to an early diagnostic, but then also to digital therapeutics, rehabilitation, and recovery. For that, we're building up a strong partner network, and we're very happy that, after all, based on this pilot, Roche will want to continue working with us to build out the digital physio coach. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Joel, and great accomplishments. Congratulations to that. We already have the first questions, and I will quickly guide them through to you. For the data set, how big is the underlying data set on which your machine learning algorithms are trained on?
So basically what we do at Way also for the fitness exercises is that we have kind of a deterministic approach until we have the repetition properly tracked. And from there, the system starts to learn on its own how to better group the exercise into different variations, how to detect mistakes. And the exercise, so the training set we had now was bit above 300 repetitions after all, so not very much for a machine learning model, but we were clearly able to show that from the 300 to later over 400, there was still a big improvement.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for well, your participation. And as Max already said, our paths won't well, split here. We will be looking forward to the next interactions.
Thanks everybody. Thanks to you guys, and also thanks to our partners at Roche. It has been a great pilot and a great program.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, shifting our well, view now from movement to a very interesting other biomarker. Voice. Voice is such a, well, voice contains such a rich data source for multiple different indications, for the human well-being, for the mental state, and in general, also for the physical state. Nemesysco takes a very interesting approach here to support the customer agents in their efforts to deal with clients. So with that, I would like to hand it over to Israel, to Gal, to tell us a little bit more about their fantastic product they are developing.
Perfect. So let's begin with no further ado. So Nemesysco offers a unique technology for genuine emotion detection via voice analysis. Truly understanding people's emotional reactions and motivations has always been a key challenge in almost any aspect of our lives, since it informs our decision-making process and how we interact with one another. The better we understand our conversation partner, the better equipped we are to make the best out of the interaction. But what does genuine emotion detection mean? So to understand what's so special about our LVA technology, layered voice analysis, let's take a quick look at other voice analysis methods. First, there's voice print, basically identifying the speaker by their unique voice, which is great stuff, but LVA is not about that. Then there's speech to text, or ASR, the conversion of speech into text, and then analyzing the text to find what was said and maybe guess the possible contextual sentiments. Great stuff, but LVA is not about that either. Finally, intonation-based sentiment analysis targets what a person sounds like, angry, excited, happy, etc., with the idea that the way we choose to express ourselves reflects how we actually feel. You guessed it. Great stuff, but LVA is not about that. Nemesysco's LVA technology offers unique insights into the speaker's actual emotional and cognitive responses. Insights that replace assuming with knowing what your customers, teams, or patients experience. LVA goes beyond mimicking the capability of the human ear. We trace and analyze 151 vocal biomarkers in the human voice, elements that are uncontrollable by the speaker and cannot be readily identified by the listener. In over 20 years of research, we have correlated these biomarkers with key emotions and cognitive states, enabling us to reveal how speakers truly and genuinely feel. Moreover, we were able to measure emotional intensity to provide deeper layers of insights about people's reactions to specific stimuli. So why is this so important? We all use speech to construct an impression based on what we say and how we say it. How many times have you answered the question, how are you, with, I'm absolutely fine, while not really feeling that great? You used words to mask how you really felt. And how many times did you add a little inflection to your voice to make sure you sounded like you were absolutely tingling with joy? This very same inclination can be found anywhere, from customers on a call with contact representatives trying to be civil while fuming inside, to job candidates who over-embellish their skills, to employees and even patients who often don't ask for help when they experience emotional strain. And while LVA was born as a lie detection tool for security-related cases, it grew beyond this sphere and can detect and measure diverse emotional states such as stress, anger, sadness, joy, hesitation, confusion, mental effort, engagement, to name but a few. Nemesysco serves multiple use cases globally, including helping crime fighters, assisting employers with employee recruitment and personality assessments, fighting insurance fraud, optimizing loan underwriting, and empowering contact centers to provide a tailored customer experience while keeping an eye on agents' emotional well-being, which is a big goal for us. Our technology is easily integratable for any use case via our SDKs and cloud-based APIs, but if you need it tomorrow morning, no problem. We also offer task-specific turnkey applications, all GDPR compliant. So through the Creasphere program, which I've enjoyed thoroughly, we have partnered up with Roche with the goal of augmenting Roche's support contact centers with emotion detection. They were looking for real-time analysis that was independent of both language and information so that it could be deployed anywhere across Roche's global teams. The pilot saw the onboarding of teams in 4 countries: Spain, Brazil, South Korea, and Japan. For the pilot, we provided Intone, a tool providing in-call emotion indications, enabling agents to gauge their customers' often unexpressed reactions and tailor their approach towards a customer-specific service experience. Intone also enhanced the manager's toolset through emotional and cognitive performance data for both the agents and the clients. This combination promotes a holistic view of contact center health, identifying opportunities for training and insights into emotional well-being of agents. The collaboration with Roche's team was phenomenal. I attest to that as we worked together on the deployment, onboarding, and customizations according to Roche's emerging needs as the pilot progressed. So while I cannot share the full results and metrics of the pilot on this podium, I can share that figuring in emotional data into the customer's journey, as well as looking at anonymized insights about agents' well-being, has been an eye-opening experience for the teams. Teams were able to identify when in the day specific emotions dominated the call and on which days. They were able to see firsthand the levels of stress that agents dealt with, providing leaders a unique opportunity to help them overcome it and keep the best service professionals happy and effective. And of course, the agents were able to use the real-time indications of the client's emotions and adjust on the fly. I feel personally that there is so much more to achieve from a team's training perspective, as well as building training models based on the anonymized data. And so I'm excited to share that some have already requested to extend the pilot and learn more. At this point, I want to thank absolutely everyone of the consummate professionals on Roche's team, from the pilot leaders to the service agents that were willing to engage in something truly new and exciting. It has been an exciting ride, and we look forward to scaling up the collaboration going forward, and hopefully even introducing emotion analytics into parallel fields such as healthcare and insurtech. So thank you very much for this beautiful and amazing program.
Thank you, Gal. And also I can just say that this is a quite remarkable company. It's quite remarkable what you guys are doing in the field of sentiment analysis. But of course, detecting emotions and also some of the use cases that you named in terms of the credit scoring, the credit risk scoring, there's just an intrinsic question for me if you also somehow come to the limitations when it comes to data sensitivity. So maybe you can elaborate how you tackle that issue, how you guarantee the consent management of using voice data when it comes to detecting emotions.
Well, quite frankly, we quote unquote cheat there because the core business of Nemesysco is actually providing our APIs and SDKs to companies to develop their own platforms, right? Or to integrate emotion detection into their own platforms. These platforms are usually already compliant in the sense that they don't reveal credit card information and things of the such. Our own products are not geared to that, and therefore they're not even marketed in that direction. But the core technology does exactly that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. One more question that came up. You have multiple different projects already up and running. You have multiple different pilots up and running. A question here is, what is the most exciting project for you? And maybe also a project that at first glance might not have been that obvious.
Wow, that's a very good question and a complex one, especially because some of the information I can't really share. But the most exciting project that's now on the table, aside from how excited I am from finishing this project, at least this phase, we are partnering up with a major cloud service provider who's looking to integrate the LVA technology into their core services. So this is something that we have worked towards for many years, perfecting, building, of course, the data models, etc. And this is definitely very exciting. Something that I didn't expect to be as exciting. Nothing off the top of my head. Everything is pretty exciting in Nemesysco's world nowadays. So especially in the COVID world or post-COVID world, hopefully, there's a lot of interest in what we do, taking care of teams working from home, taking care of agents that have to perform their tasks from home. So there's a lot going on.
Fantastic. Well, Gal, thank you so much. Fingers crossed for both your pilots to materialize and roll out. And also with that, I would also like to encourage everyone in the audience to go to the startup booth. You can chat there with Gal, with all the other startups. You can even set up a meeting after today's event. So go there and well, ask all the questions that you have.
Thank you, guys. And thanks for everybody at Plug and Play and Creasphere. That was amazing. Of course, Roche. Everybody has been tremendous. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil. It has been a great ride.
Cheers.
All right. So moving onwards to the next company, but also staying in the vocal space, I'd like to introduce Zoemeet. And what Zoemeet actually does is they have found their channel through different teleconferencing tools, through telemedicine platforms, to deduct certain information about the clients, the patients, the ones that are speaking essentially, and how they do it. I would like to hand it over to Kevin to tell you more about well, their journey, their company, and also their journey with Startup Creasphere.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm just going to jump right into the presentation so we can follow up with some questions afterwards. So speech technology is more important than ever. By using this technology, we enable data capturing, processing, and analytics. Now, conversations carry knowledge, which you capture and process into readable data using speech recognition. You can use voice technology to identify people for authentication and authorization. And using a similar approach, de-identify people from their audio as well for full privacy compliance. And speech recognition is a core technology that enables biomarker research for neurodegenerative diseases, important research we're helping Roche with. As we work with enterprises globally through many fields and industries, we know that speech technology is adopted as an impactful solution. My name is Kevin Oranje, CEO and co-founder of Zoemeet. Our company is based in the Netherlands, and we specialize in speech technology and artificial intelligence. And we've been working with some of the best teams of the most well-known companies in the world, creating voice-powered solutions unlike any other. We developed speech recognition technology using complex deep learning to deliver on the best accuracy for any company in any industry. We also built and have a patent pending on unique speech anonymization technology that removes the voice fingerprint of any person within an audio file, while keeping important vocal data intact for analytics and research. Now, to make this processing completely GDPR and HIPAA compliant, we also developed a data context scrambler, meaning we can take transcribed data and scramble up all the text so the context of the transcripts cannot be identified to a person. So by combining anonymizing voices and our speech recognition technology, we make it possible to use live audio data for medical research. And this is extremely important because did you know that 40% of phase 3 clinical trials in neurology fails due to voice data privacy because of the limitation it creates in using live accurate data for research? Now, Zoemeet can deliver on an efficient solution for clinical trials. What we do is we capture the audio in a secure and private way in any type of hardware or software. We then anonymize all captured data and scramble up the transcript context before using it to train our speech recognition tech. This makes it fully GDPR and HIPAA compliant. And by training the speech engine on live data, we deliver on a high quality timestamp transcript for vocal biomarker research. Keeping in mind that this approach is 95% more time efficient than humans doing the same work. Now, during our pilot with Roche, we established a similar methodology as used in the forensic sector and accomplished preliminary verification to show how effective the anonymization is using our technology. By working with our company, we achieve more efficiency for the process of clinical trials by letting AI capture and process data. We ensure data privacy by anonymizing the audio data to fully comply with HIPAA and GDPR regulations. We protect both the enterprise as well as the patient. And by training our speech recognition on the live anonymized data, we ensure high quality results that can reduce the failure rate of clinical trials. Now, thank you so much for your time and attention. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask them now or later during the networking or at a virtual booth.
For your very insightful presentation. And of course, we love to have you on the platform. I love to have you in the Startup Creasphere family. So we have the first questions rolling in here. And maybe the first question being, what is your performance on a metric level when using your service?
Yeah, so that depends on what we're looking at. So if it's the speech recognition technology, that's something that's trained on live and unique data. So when we look at how do you compete with what's in the market, when you compete on live and unique data, that is more difficult than competing on something like features, something that is capable of doing something. So we can train models that can be up to 90% accuracy. And when it comes to the de-identification of voices of people's audio and voice print, that's a little bit more complex. It's not that black and white because you want to de-identify it completely. There's no 80-90% metric that you take there. It needs to be completely de-identified. And that's something that we found out with Roche as well during our program.
Speaking about the program, were there any particular exciting milestones during the program?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from the beginning to the end, it was an amazing learning experience for us as well, working together with such a large company and so particular in the focus area. We found that actually our process of de-identifying data would have made this process already from the start so much easier, which was a unique finding because now we know that what we're doing actually is going to help clinical researchers so much.
Thank you, Kevin, and also thank you for participating in the program. And of course, we'll keep in touch also beyond the 3 months. So with that being said, we will now come to the second half of the Roche startup pitches. Again, we have prepared a little video that highlights the corporate partner teams as well as the startups involved in our batch. So please, studio, play the video.
Increasing speech data collection to identify vocal biomarkers demand new tools for analysis in a privacy-compliant. It is a challenging problem. We have to balance the trade-off between protecting the participants' voice identity while extracting sensitive biomarkers. We address this trade-off in our collaboration with innovation group PDM and Zoemeet. If successful, Zoemeet's unique technology will enable us to de-identify the data at source and automatically transcribe speech. This will enable its future use of voice biomarkers in clinical trials as outcome assessments.
Zoemeet helps Roche unlock voice data from compliance by de-identifying existing audio from real people and setting up the foundation for a scalable approach to collect live speech data in a HIPAA and GDPR compliant way. We also develop accurate speech recognition models for vocal biomarker research. delivering up to the highest recognition accuracy and time-stamped output that is needed for neurodegenerative disease research within Roche.
In this pilot, we are focusing on the Avenio tumor tissue CGP kit, a joint development between Roche Diagnostics and Foundation Medicine. This kit offers our customers the ability to run a high-quality comprehensive genomic profiling assay in their in-house laboratory. A main objective for us is to use as much data generated with this kit as possible, including real-world data. And to achieve that, we need a distributable solution to track patient-informed consent and data access rights.
Pryv's challenge is to build a pilot with Foundation Medicine and RIS Data Service. The project is about capturing new patients' data and to bring together genomic and real-world data. One of the constraints is that patients are located in different sites with different regulations. As Pryv, we provide our expertise in privacy and our software solution, Pryv.io, which facilitate data capture and exchange while making sure that compliance and patient-informed consent are respected.
We chose Pryv as the startup to work with because they have good knowledge of the privacy landscape and offer a scalable middleware solution that can work well with our existing scope.
One of the biggest challenges in disease management is keeping patients engaged in using a digital solution. And with Lark, we found a great partner to tackle that for cardiac patients. They have an AI-based coaching solution, which we, together with the Roche expertise in the cardiac field and our US colleagues, will adapt to be used for cardiac patients in the US market.
Lark is an AI coaching platform for chronic disease management. Lark is a late-stage startup. We already have a very successful business model with significant proven clinical outcomes. Lark is partnering with Roche. We're very excited to partner with Roche to accelerate our growth into new disease states and into new markets. Roche has challenged Lark, and we have accepted, to build out an AI coaching program to address the 120 million people in the US suffering from cardiovascular disease. And through this joint collaboration, we will be able to serve people suffering from cardiovascular disease. We will be able to improve patient outcomes and reduce medical expenses.
When startups partner with a large multinational, there can be a misalignment of goals and expectations. But we were lucky enough at Oncoustics to have been selected by a team at Roche led by Dr. Benjamin Schumacher, and we've been really well aligned.
Men over 50 screened for prostate cancer often undergo biopsy for confirmation. However, most of those biopsies do not confirm an aggressive cancer. There is a clear need for improved differentiation to reduce the number of biopsies. We are committed to develop a digital tool and combine our experience in blood biomarkers with Oncoustics' unique ultrasound-based AI score. The solution is anticipated to be convenient for patients, efficient for clinicians, and cost-effective for the healthcare system.
We're looking to combine our AI tissue characterization diagnostics with their blood-based biomarkers to create for patients a novel prostate cancer screening tool that not only promises to help detect cancer, but decrease unnecessary biopsies.
Great video impression, and of course also very inspiring reflections on our program. So next up, I would like to invite the French company Deigma to the virtual stage. The company allows laboratories to track and trace and monitor blood samples throughout the logistical value chain, starting in a clinical setting and eventually towards diagnosis in a laboratory setting. Why this is so important, also for the eventual diagnostic power and quality, I want to invite Elisa Grimont to the virtual stage. Please, Elisa, lead us away with your pitch.
Fantastic. Thank you for this great introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm Elisa Grimont, doctor in neuroscience. I am co-founder and CEO of Deigma. a French company specialized in monitoring sensitive health products. And I have to tell you that high cost of monitoring is a pain point and sometimes a break for traceability in the health sector, which has to guarantee a high level of reliability, but sometimes just cannot because of the cost of this traceability. Our approach is based on an IoT platform, allowing to dramatically reduce monitoring costs. And because we reduce the cost, we make traceability possible where it was not possible here. And to give you an example, it's like large volume of tissues or blood sample at the level of the sample. And with Deigma, the labs can better control temperatures, delays, identification, and so on. This naturally leads to better quality, better safety, better costs, and better logistics. This topic is very relevant in the medical biology sector that we address with Roche Diagnostic. And I would like to show you how Deigma serves the technical and commercial strategy of Roche that for the benefits of the customers. So when you look at the blood sample life cycle, it is perfectly known and controlled within the laboratory. Roche has mastered this stage with a very high level of expertise and high performance tool. In contrast, when a sample is taken outside the lab, very little information is monitored before its arrival. It's like a black box, you know, which leads to lack of quality proof and logistic efficiency. And to give you an example, I guess a very good example, the lab is only aware of the sample when it arrives at its door. Since all the samples arrive at the same time and are not anticipated, the laboratory undergoes intense peaks of activity when samples arrive, which disrupts the activity and have a price, of course. Monitoring each sample can resolve this problem, but it can be settled only if the business model of the solution, the traceability solution, is designed to track big quantities, which means that the monitoring costs are reduced. And of course, it's our approach. Roche's products and business development strategy must take this gap into account to position itself in this so-called pre-analytical phase before anyone else does. We precisely work together on this subject. Let me explain how. Okay, don't be afraid. I won't bore you with the details of this sham. It's just to explain that within the lab, Roche develops a hub called PPA to facilitate communication between solutions like ours and their internal lab customers. Thus, the collaboration with Roche will allow us to accelerate our integration with labs and thus to access a large international market faster. For Roche, our solution provides its customer with complete pre-analytical traceability with an approach that enhances the value of the data collected. It looks technical, but it's strategy indeed. So the goal of our pilots is to validate the benefits of the traceability provided by the Deigma solution for medical biology and further collaboration in PPA Roche Hub. At the end of the summer, so you have to stay tuned, this pilot should lead to the deployment of the solution in the Roche client lab where we started the pilot, and also commercialization of our product with Roche. Future pilot will be settled about soon, and this capability to adapt our product to other countries and to other issues addressed by Roche is of great interest for Roche, and is possible because we structure our platform to make it highly flexible with an unbeatable adaptable time. We built this vision together with Roche Diagnostic France and Roche Diagnostic International, and all these people that you can see in my screen are top-notch. And by the way, they are much more numerous, and I would have needed a couple extra slides. It's a great pleasure to work with each of them, and I thank all of them to their commitments. Finally, for those of you who are interested in traceability of sample in medical biology, I suggest you make an appointment for a demo of our solution. We are also very interested in studying other subjects for which traceability is an improvement angle. By the way, we already identify use cases in anapathology and pharma, and we are open to set up new pilots, perhaps with you. And if you think so, please contact us to study the relevance of a collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa, for your pitch. And of course, we are very happy to have had you throughout the last 3 months. With that being said, we will kickstart the Q&A session for you. And the first question is, how does your product compare to competitive technology out there?
Yes, of course. So traceability solutions are not a new product, of course, but having low cost for traceability can put the traceability for on products that were not traced at all, and that leads to lack of quality. And I guess that this type of traceability can guarantee the quality, but also can work for improving logistics. For example, blood sample during the pre-analytic phase, tracking this sample can help the labs to anticipate their managing into the lab. But also when we speak to the lab, we understand that they already know a traceability solution, but it was not enough. It was not a good solution for them. And with our solution, they can manage other things that just quality, and this is mainly leads with the price. And also, of course, I speak about that before, about the flexibility of our solution that can help us to propose our solution to French laboratories, but also European laboratories, and to be adaptable to other type of subject.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Elisa, for those insights. One question, and you teased on it a little bit during your presentation. In terms of your expansion plans and in terms of the new countries that you want to deploy a solution in, could you elaborate a little bit how that looks like and where do you want to go?
Okay, so first of all, we start by France, because in France, there are legal obligation for traceability during the pre-analytic phase. And that means that labs has to trace their blood sample outside the lab for quality. But other countries in Europe are also very interesting in quality, even if it's not an obligation. So Europe is a good place to develop, also because the workflow of the sample are very similar that we have in France. So the model can be applied also in Europe.
Thank you, Elisa. And of course, you will find her and the company also at the startup booths and in the later networking sessions today. So with that being said, we will come to our next startup. The startup is called Pryv, and it's an extremely important topic because we all know that access to healthcare data is becoming one of the underlying assets when it comes to developing new healthcare applications. Also, we have to recognize the fact that using that patient data requires a certain data governance and also privacy guidelines. So adhering to that and how we can automate this process, we'll now have the pleasure to learn more about this by the company Pryv, and specific by Pierre Michael from Swiss.
So the project that we conducted for this pilot was made actually with RIS Data Services and Foundation Medicines with the help of Assad and Thomas. Myself, as the CEO and co-founder of Pryv, I was participating, as well as Evelina. The data privacy and compliance was actually applied to a specific challenge that was previously introduced by Thomas in this short video, where they at Foundation Medicines are actually analyzing tumor tissues and making analytics for first the oncologist and for Roche. And they have actually to extend these capabilities by collecting more data and by collecting also consent in a more decentralized and more compliant way towards different regulations in order to allow an extended usage of this information. Just to understand the current workflow that we addressed is that today Foundation Medicine is receiving the samples and the specimens directly from the oncologist that himself collect the consent, so they can analyze it and make their usual study. With Pryv software, we were able to extend this process and actually first decentralize it, so the data management and data control can be on the location where the pathologists are. And this allow to have to comply to different, not only regulations, but also local policies that can be related to a site. At the same time, our software was used to collect the consent that was actually on paper, and to track the usage of data. And this is a very important point, is that actually from the GDPR or the CCPA in California and other regulation, you have to always keep track of who had access to the data and what for. What I'm going to present to you is actually the result of this pilot. So first, the consent management. So a very simple user interface where Foundation Medicine and Roche can create and upload consent, this time not generic, but actually bound to some usage and processes, but also only for some regulation and legislation, still located at the very same place. So the data is still in the same platform, in the same format for interoperability, but actually with very specific consent management. The next user interface that you're going to see is actually the one that sees the doctors, and that would be for a specific patient, where naturally you can see the patient data, and you can actually add or even revoke consent. And this is what we call dynamic consent, is that a consent can be given, but it's not for a lifetime. In most of the regulation now, some consent can be revoked, especially when it's about research or I would say non-clinical studies. Here you can see each of the studies that have been conducted on the data of this specific patient. And naturally, there are new available consent to be actually registered on the demand of the FMI in that case. Now, and this is I would say, the most important point is the user interface that would face Foundation Medicine. So when they want to use the data and create new study, then they just have to select within the set of available data within a specific consent what they want to use, explain the usage, validate it, and then they will have access to the data. That was the first step for actually a broader view, as our technology actually allows to be extended at the end. The next step for this project would be to put in the hand of a patient, for example, mobile apps or devices to collect real world data, for example, but also to actually have a direct consent management mechanism with the patient where he can accept or revoke a consent. That would be for the left side, and on the right side, an extended usage of data, not only for FMI, but also for partners of Roche, which could have access to this very important data, I would say, lake, so they can conduct their own studies, naturally in a compliant way. Just a word about what we do at Pryv. What we do is software to do data governance, as it was introduced before. We are active in all the patient journey by providing our software for new tools or innovative systems that always have on one side the patient and his data, and on the other side, the data processing with algorithm. Naturally, our task is to make sure that everything is done in compliance. Thank you for your attention, and I'm waiting for your questions.
Thank you, Pierre, for all the input today. And we have one major question also by the audience. What is the strategic purpose and motivation behind your open source approach?
Thank you very much. Okay. What we found out is, first, our solution is very, I would say, unique. Today, the choice for teams are either to make these themselves or to use our software. And we have also to take this place on the market about our point of view and our technology. And using open source is a great way to enable anyone around the globe to have access to compliance. One of this, our point of view is that actually developers are not lawyers. And when they have to design mobile applications that manage personal data, and especially healthcare data, they have to be privacy by design. So actually to develop with privacy in mind and law in mind, which is not the case and which is not what developers should do. So our approach is to make this available for anyone at no cost. Still, our business model is to sell licenses, and there it comes with our expertise in privacy and our understanding of different regulation and how to apply IT systems on it.
Thank you, Pierre. And with that, we come to the second last startup of today. The company is called Lark from the US, and we're super excited to have them on board. We all know that the rising prevalence of chronic disease is a very important subject at hand, especially for the Western healthcare system, as this is a huge toll in terms of financial, but also human resources. How Lark is actually helping diabetes patients, obesity patients, using their digital care platform, we will now have the pleasure to talk to Julie Kraft from Mountain View, USA, who is telling us more about the vision going forward.
Thank you, Max. Great to be here with you all today. As you can see in my background, I'm calling in from sunny Southern California.
That is great. I mean, that looks like our Summer Summit motto. So please lead us away.
Okay. So Lark is super excited to partner with Roche to reimagine cardiac virtual care. All of us know about the global epidemic that's happening on chronic diseases. Chronic disease is an epidemic. 6 in 10 adults in the US have some type of chronic disease, and 4 in 10 are suffering from some type of comorbidity. There just are not enough doctors and not enough nurses in the world to be able to treat and serve everyone suffering from a chronic disease. And the key piece here is to be able to do early detection and prevention so that we can lower these numbers and help to mitigate the risk and mitigate the trillions of dollars in annual healthcare costs. And so through this is the genesis of Lark. By being able to do early detection and prevention, the only way that's going to be possible is through the use of technology. And so Lark is an infinitely scalable, personal, compassionate, virtual healthcare coaching platform. Our goal is to treat people suffering from chronic disease. Lark is the world's largest AI healthcare provider, equivalent to a live nurse. And today we're treating about 2 million patients on our platform. We've won awards from a few little companies like Google and Apple. And we serve up billions of predictive interventions. And so not only are we collecting all of this data, but we're turning it into actionable insights to make a difference in the lives of the patients. Lark is a late stage startup. We did receive our Series C funding in 2020 for approximately 70 million. And we already have a very successful proven business model. But we are collaborating with Roche because we really want to use their expertise and partner with them to explore entering into new disease states and into new markets. And today, Lark has 5 disease states and programs that we coach on. And so I'll tell you a little bit about the new disease state that we're partnering with Roche to explore. One more slide to talk a little bit more about the depth of Lark. Because when you look at if you take your phone out today and you search for chronic disease apps, you may come across 100 different apps, but most of them serve one tiny little segment of that disease. What Lark is an AI conversational platform. We are a technology platform that can connect the patient throughout their entire patient journey, no matter where they are. We'll meet them where they are in the holistic healthcare ecosystem. For example, if you're a patient using Lark and all of a sudden Lark uncovers that you're not taking your medication, Lark will will dig a little deeper and find out why. Maybe it's because you don't have a ride to get to your pharmacy to pick up your refill. Lark will connect you to Uber so you can get to the pharmacy. Maybe you're too sick to be able to get to the pharmacy. So Lark will connect you with a service that will provide the medication to home delivery. Maybe Lark is connected with about 70 different devices. Maybe you haven't been weighing in, and that's a part of your program. And so Lark will uncover, why aren't you weighing in? There's an issue with your device. Let's get you to the device center and get a new device overnighted to your home. So wherever the patient is in their patient journey, Lark is on top of it. Lark is 24/7 coaching with the patient to make sure that their holistic healthcare ecosystem journey is seamless. The challenge that Roche has asked us to address is cardiovascular disease. This is a program that we currently are not addressing with Lark, and we are really excited to partner with Roche because, as you can see, the numbers are big. There's over 120 million people in the US suffering from cardiovascular disease, and this is costing the US billions of dollars a year. And as we go back to that first slide, we talked about early detection and prevention. The key takeaway is 80% of these cases are preventable. And that is why we're excited to work with Roche to come up with a concept solution for heart health. The program is an AI heart health coaching program where we can set it up as a clinical framework like we do with our other Lark coaching programs, where the patient has missions and goals and milestones to achieve every single week in the program that's all designed to change their behavior and increase the patient outcomes. This is also being done with a wrapper of 24/7 personalized machine learning coaching to coach the patients on their physical activity, their nutrition, their weight, to perhaps stress management, medication adherence, their sleep. All of these pieces and elements of the holistic patient journey is being coached on and monitored by Lark 24/7, following evidence-based guidelines by the American Heart Association and the CDC. Lark is connected with over 70 different devices, and we use these data-driven insights to be able to improve the patient's outcomes. And so we are super excited, in summary, to partner with Roche to reimagine cardiac care. The whole goal is to reduce medical expenses, increase quality of care, increase patient engagement to improve patient outcomes. Thank you so much, Roche, for the opportunity to work with you. Thank you, Plug and Play, and everyone on the Roche team. It's been an amazing journey, and we're really excited to see where we go from here. So thank you all.
Thank you, Julie, for your passion and also for your participation in our program. We actually already have the first questions, and one of them is, well, targeting one of your quotes, where you said you're currently active in 5 indications, or exploring the 5th one. So what's next? What's on your agenda? In which indications do you want to develop further?
Thank you. That's a great question. We are super excited to partner with Roche so we can accelerate the growth into cardiovascular disease. And from there, we are exploring some of the other, there's the top 5 critical chronic diseases. So we are exploring CKD is another one that we're exploring, as well as asthma and COPD. Those are kind of the top critical chronic diseases that are on our roadmap. And the other strength that Roche brings to the table that we're partnering with them on is to potentially expand outside of the US and to expand into other geographic markets. And we'd love to come visit you in Europe and expand over there as well.
Thank you, Julie. And we have one last other question. So for patients using your service and platform, do you have any performance metrics on how their daily lives have improved using your service?
Thank you. I love that question because yes, digital solutions are new. And so the only way they're going to get adoption is if you have clinical studies and clinical outcomes. So that is key to making sure, and that's why we're able to treat 2 million patients and growing, because we have those clinical studies and clinical outcomes. Each of our disease programs, we have studies. You can come to our website and check them out or ping me. I'll be happy to share them with you. But we follow the CDC guidelines and we've achieved the highest accreditation through the CDC. For example, I'll just give one example. For our pre-diabetes program, the CDC gives you accreditation if you hit all of their metrics, but one of those metrics is a 5% weight loss. And so through this program, through our coaching program, we are proud to say that our patients have accomplished a 5.2% weight loss. And if they're over age 65, the data is even higher. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And with that being said, all the best to the USA, and please enjoy also the sunshine, the good weather on your side later on today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course, Julie. So last but not least, we have the company Oncoustics pitching today. We welcome them to the virtual stage, and the company is also super interesting as they enable a full liver screening and also diagnosis in less than 5 minutes. So truly astonishing how they can achieve such rates. We have Beth Rogodzinski here to pitch the company and lead us away. Please, Beth.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'd like to start by thanking our team at Roche and of course the Startup Creasphere team for including Oncoustics in this incredible program that we've been able to participate in. Let me share my screen and we can get started here. Last but not least.
Exactly. We're already excited for the pitch.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'd like to thank you again. You know, as Julie was saying, as our other participants were saying, you know, this is a collaborative event, and healthcare is a team sport, as is startups, as are startups. So we're thrilled to be here. And today I'm going to talk with you about good health and where it begins. Good health begins with insight and exploration, but insight can be hard to gain, especially in asymptomatic diseases. These diseases often present a dilemma. If they're not causing symptoms, are they causing harm? Structural diseases such as fibrosis, adenomas, and cancers are mostly silent and asymptomatic, left undetected until very advanced stages. And yet, sometimes while they're benign, sometimes they're deadly. And differentiating between the benign and the deadly is complex and time-consuming with several appointments and specialists involved. It's expensive and can be minimally available and involves high-end imaging such as MR or CT, or it involves highly invasive biopsies. But there is a better way. And as was said, I'm Beth Rogodzinski. I'm here to introduce you to Oncoustics. Oncoustics is creating and deploying advanced AI solutions for low-cost, non-invasive surveillance diagnostics and treatment monitoring of diseases with high unmet clinical need. Via our patented and data-protected approach, we enable frontline clinicians to do tissue characterization at point of care. We're a hardware-agnostic, software-only solution. We can work on any ultrasound system, but our enhanced value comes via these low-end ultrasound systems that are now coming into market. These low-end systems are really exciting. They cost under $4,000 US, but they're really limited by poor image quality. But our approach doesn't require images. Unlike other players in this space, we're not doing image recognition, we're not doing image enhancement, we're not doing sonographer training. Instead, we apply the AI to the raw sound signal that comes from these readily available devices. And we can, via this, we can rapidly differentiate healthy from diseased tissues. There's a wealth of information in these signals, and we mine these to map morphological and structural changes and provide quantitative insights. We can see the unseen. We offer locked presets and guidance on our app, so via this, we remove both the variability in the interpretation as well as its acquisition. Our first product is the Onyx Liver Fibrosis Categorization Solution, and it addresses a $30 billion a year liver diagnostics market. Over 2 billion people globally are living with or at risk of liver disease. And the Onyx is a complete liver surveillance and diagnostic solution for point-of-care liver evaluation. Our solution is now tested on over 4,000 patients and offers a unique and inexpensive approach to quickly examine a patient's liver. Within minutes, any clinician or care team member can perform the exam and receive actionable insights. No training required, and the quantified results can be read by any MD. Oncoustics makes the complex, expensive, and invasive process of diagnosing liver disease seamless, painless, and done in 5 minutes. Beyond the liver, the Oncoustics approach can be applied to any anatomical region of the body that the ultrasound can image. And during our startup Creasphere tenure, we've been working with Roche and building on our approach from our point-of-care diagnostics in liver disease and earlier work done in detecting suspicious prostate tissue and prostate guidance. Together, using Roche's blood-based biomarkers and the Oncoustics ultrasound-based tissue characterization approach, we plan to enable urologists to screen men presenting in this gray zone of PSA and via a simple and less invasive ultrasound, present a quantitative score and help better risk stratify men for prostate cancer. This is the 5th leading cause of cancer and the most common cancer in men over the age of 50. With our combination approach, we can detect false positives and eliminate unnecessary biopsies. And we can also decrease false negatives and catch cancers earlier. Our approach is protected by a growing patent portfolio, and our custom collected data set of over 2 million pieces of data represents the largest RF signal data set in the world. Our regulatory submissions for the Onyx Liver solution are underway. We've achieved over 95% accuracy for this initial offering, and we're aiming for full clearance for this product by 2022. And we provide a clear value proposition for patients, MDs, clinics, and payers. We're currently out and raising an $8 million A round, and with this, we'll launch our first products, start generating revenues, and expand our pipeline to tackle the $30 billion a year liver diagnostics market and start tackling the prostate cancer market as well. I started this by talking about team, and if you'd like to join us in our quest to revolutionize diagnostics, feel free to reach out. I'm Beth Rogozinski, CEO of Oncoustics, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Beth. I think it's truly remarkable how your service simplifies also the diagnosis of cancer in the specific areas. So for me personally, I think one of the buzzing questions here is your solution also something that caters especially to the needs of emerging markets and maybe remote areas?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an excellent question. So we anticipate that these ultrasound devices and ultrasound in general are actually going to leapfrog other technologies. You know, a lot of what we can do can be done via high-end imaging or biopsy, but a lot of developing markets aren't going to be able to afford a multi-million-dollar MR system or CT or the experts that are required to interpret those. So our device actually provides quantitative interpretation of a patient's standing, not only in emerging markets, but I should say that NASA is really very interested in this because they will send something like this to space, but they will not send a big MR magnet. So we can really go anywhere. This can literally sit in your pocket and offer a point of care diagnosis anywhere you go.
Great. Well, Beth, thank you so much for that great pitch. I know the main like competitive advantage that you have is that you don't specifically use the data that comes out of the ultrasound devices in terms of pictures. But could you also elaborate a little bit in that specific sense how you will further develop your technology, and then going beyond liver, going beyond prostate, what are the next things for you to expand your offering?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. And that is actually what's really very unique about this, right? So this device, the way that these sound devices work is it sends out a sound signal and then it bounces back. When the image is converted, when the sound signals are converted into an image, it's called a B mode conversion. And then typically all of that raw data is thrown away. We actually capture that data and the images. And so our AI can actually perform complex quantitative analysis of both the images as well as the sound signals. So via this, we can actually do like organ segmentation. We can differentiate liver from adjacent kidney and know that we're actually doing the acoustic property equations only on the liver. To the point that I was making earlier, though, this does work on prostate. We've actually validated this with a small data set for prostate biopsy guidance, and this is what we're working with on our team at Roche. When we combine our approach with other biomarkers like a PSA or complex bioalgorithms, we can actually even improve the score for this. But we've got data sets already for thyroid, breast, kidney. I think one of the keys, though, is as a startup, we have to wake up every day and decide what not to do. So we're initially focusing on the liver, and there are 4 conditions that we'll be approaching there. And then we'll look to work with Roche on our prostate cancer approach.
Thank you, Beth. And I definitely agree that there are a lot of other opportunities to explore, and we surely want to be your partner in doing so and being a partner in further explorations and on your future innovation journey. With that being said, we will now conclude all of our startup pitches today. We are extremely happy to have such ambitious and great founders on board of our platform. And also a special thanks goes out to all of the corporate partner teams that have been involved in our program here. And leading on from this, we now come to the juicy part of our virtual pitch award. So you guys in the audience have the opportunity now to select and vote for your favorite startup. For that, I would encourage you to go to the poll booth just below the main stage and vote for your favorite startup involved.
So Max, now we're at the juicy part. Are you stoked?
Yes, I'm definitely stoked, and time is also up. The vote booths are closed. And Fabian, I want to know from you, what is your guess? Who will be the winner of today's pitch session?
I would say that's a very tough decision to make. We've seen so many good companies and such a flourishing wide variety of companies in their focus. I personally really like the approach of Nemesysco because it's such a different approach compared to all the solutions that are out there. But let's see what the audience thinks.
Exactly. Let's see what the audience thinks. And it was actually also quite a tough race. And the winner of today is the startup Lifelight. Hey! So for that, we want to congratulate you to the Great Pitch Award. And of course, we're super happy to have each and every one of you pitching today. So thank you for that. And for the finishing words, I will hand it over to Fabian here.
Thank you very much, Max. So thank you everyone for participating today and also for being part of today's expo. With that, we want give out a special thanks to our behind the scenes team for the great execution of the technological issues and also well, agenda that we had. Besides that, I want to give a special thanks to Christina, our program manager. Without her, we wouldn't be here today. She has done a marvelous job throughout the entire program. And of course, also to Friederike, our head of Munich and also head of the well, health team here. Without her, we wouldn't be here as well. A special thanks also goes out to all the pilot teams that have been participating here, and in particular also the champions with whom we have such great memories and are looking forward to build further memories as well. With that being said, one more thing to announce, and that's the result, the end result of dear Olivia, who has been patiently accompanying us throughout the entire event with her talent to scribble and transform content into visual effects. So with that, I would like to hand it over to her screen to see the final result. So what a fantastic piece of art. We're very excited, and thank you so much, Olivia, for that great effort and also the support here. That's something we're going to send out to each and every one of you who has participated in today's expo. So thank you so much, Olivia. Really, really highly appreciate it. With that, one final announcement that we would like to make. We, as you might know, or maybe you haven't been here as of now, have a fairly good and big office here in Munich. And we always try to, well, create an ecosystem that is as flourishing as possible. So to include multiple stakeholders, multiple startups, our corporate partners also come here from time to time and have their dedicated spots. And also we'd like to have it as a spot where venture capital comes in and also sees amazing startups. So in case you're interested to join us on our journey here in Munich, please feel free to reach out to the office management and collect further informations, and they will guide you through the office. That has been, well, the last sentence of today from our side. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to guide you through the evening. And with that being said, we'd like to send it up to the rooftop.
Thank you very much for joining us today for the first part of the Summer Summit Munich edition. And we saw again today how important healthcare is in nowadays. And it's great to see all the pilot projects that are happening. Thank you for joining.
Thanks also to the Plug Play Munich Health team and the corporate partners for all these insights today. There are plenty of use cases overlapping with the insurance industry, which we'll focus on tomorrow morning.
Now, please join us for the networking. We wish you afterwards a nice evening and see you tomorrow for the second part of Munich Summer Summit.